Chapter 2409 2409 2409 Memorial Battle 5. In the highest palace of Sky City, Sky God King was leaning on his throne while Sword God King was sitting cross-legged on a 3-meter-long giant sword. The two of them didn't say anything. They were waiting for the experts of the Heaven Beast Corporation to arrive. They knew that it was easy for them to defeat the Dragon King, but it was very difficult to kill him. Even with the confinement circle around him, it would still be hard to keep him alive. Reaching the Undying Emperor realm, he could hide his undying country within the space crack. His speed and life force had reached a terrifying level. Even if he couldn't return to his undying country, just with his speed and life force, it would be hard for the two of them to keep the Dragon King alive. However, if the four of them attacked him together, that wasn't necessarily the case. They could instantly seal off the surroundings. Escape? Where to? Up and down? That was obviously impossible. As long as they spent a certain amount of time, they would definitely be able to catch up and kill him. Hence, now that they could kill the Dragon King, they could only wait. Time slowly passed. The two of them weren't anxious at all. Buzz! For hours later, the Sky Celestial King, who was leaning on the divine seat, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked outside and could not help but smile. Ha ha ha! Everyone from the Heaven Beast Corporation, welcome! A carefree voice came out of the Sky Celestial King's mouth. He immediately stood up and flew forward. Sky Celestial King, Sword Celestial King, right? At the entrance of the hall, 3 figures slowly walked in. 2 old men and a middle-aged man looked at Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King in the hall and asked indifferently. That's right. Oh, the 3 of you are all Celestial Kings? Sky Celestial King swept his gaze across the 3 people and was slightly taken aback before he said, There are only 2 of you. We were afraid that you were too weak to keep the other party, so we sent an additional person. The leading elder said indifferently, not giving them any face. One of you doesn't have to make a move tomorrow. Sword God King, who was sitting cross-legged on the huge sword, heard their words. A sword light flashed in his eyes as he said coldly. The surrounding void seemed to be filled with sharp swords floating in the air. Then maybe we really only need 2 people to make a move tomorrow. The old man in the lead looked at Sword God King with a hint of surprise on his face. Clearly, he was also very surprised by Sword God King's strength. Hee. 3 of you from the Heaven Beast Corporation will be even more foolproof. Tomorrow, all you have to do is stop them from escaping. Leave the rest to us. Sky God King smiled and said loudly, Don't worry. It's impossible to escape from us. The middle-aged man beside him said confidently, This is a confinement ring. Don't forget your conditions. You will have to pay a price for deceiving our Heaven Beast Corporation. The leading elder threw a confinement ring to Sword Celestial King and said indifferently, Of course. Sword Celestial King caught it. Listen to our orders and cooperate with us tomorrow. Okay. The 3 of them nodded and began to discuss some details. Time passed very quickly. From the outbreak of the catastrophe to the end, it was a rebirth for everyone in the Heavenly Lake continent. The more than 100 million soldiers who died in battle were the heroes of the entire Heavenly Lake continent. It was because of their deaths that the Heavenly Lake continent was now in perfect condition. Everyone was filled with admiration for the heroes. On the day of the memorial service, the entire continent had been preparing for the memorial service. It was located in the center of the continent, where the federal government was located. There was a huge square with white flowers on it. At the very front was a huge tombstone. There were 3 tombstones that were tens of thousands of meters tall, and the first 2 were filled with countless names. Similarly, on that brand new tombstone, there were also many names recorded. There were more than 100 million of them. These were all soldiers who had died in battle. These were the tombstones of heroes. The tombstones of heroes. Early in the morning, countless soldiers had lined up neatly to come to the memorial square. At the entrance, the 4 major factions and countless people from the Federation were dressed neatly. They walked into the square. The entire square was slightly solemn, with silent music playing around it. Fighter jets hovered in the sky as if they were sending them off. The number of people participating in this memorial ceremony had reached around 50 million. The rest of the people were watching the live broadcast through the AI. The atmosphere was slightly solemn. Grandpa, the Dragon King, is also here today. There won't be any big trouble, right? In the command room at the very front, a middle-aged man said to the Supreme Commander with a frown. We can't interfere in this either. However, with Senior Xiantianzi here, ordinary people won't be involved. The Supreme Commander frowned slightly and shook his head helplessly. They had no way of handling this matter. Everyone was a hero of the Heavenly Lake continent. The Dragon King's appearance had averted this calamity. However, the Sky and Sword godly monarchs also contributed greatly. They had also guarded the Heavenly Lake continent for hundreds of thousands of years. They could not interfere in the feud between the three godly monarchs. Even in such a situation, it was not appropriate for Xiantianzi to interfere. I really don't know if the appearance of the Dragon King is a good thing or a bad thing. The middle-aged man sighed silently. It's a good thing. At the very least, we have survived the calamity. The Supreme Commander looked at his grandson and patted him on the shoulder as he walked out. He was going to preside over today's memorial. Stepping on the road paved with white flowers, his gaze swept his surroundings. The godly monarchs had yet to arrive. Perhaps they would only appear in the end. He slowly walked forward with his subordinates following behind him. The Continental Memorial Ceremony could be considered to have begun. Under this kind of atmosphere, the 50 million people who came to the memorial ceremony did not speak. After all, under this kind of atmosphere, they could not speak either. The Supreme Commander walked forward and began to give a speech, giving a speech for the heroes. The speech was not short. It lasted for a full half an hour. Everyone was listening attentively. On the tombstone of the heroes, the names began to shine from top to bottom. The memorial ceremony was going on. The 5 God Kings have arrived. They are the pillars of humanity in the Tianzhe continent for hundreds of thousands of years. They are the saviors of humanity and our reliance. In this tribute, our godly monarchs will be giving their tributes. We pay our respects to the 5 godly monarchs. Half an hour later, the highest commander looked around and said as he slowly half-kneeled on the ground, we pay our respects to the godly monarchs. The rest of the people also half-kneeled on the ground respectfully and shouted in unison. Boom, boom, boom. The next moment, 5 figures came from different directions. In the sky, the godly king of the sky and the godly king of swords looked at Wang Xian with sparkling eyes. Wang Xian looked at them with a smile on his face as well. It had begun. Chapter 2410. 2410-2410 Slaying the God King. The founding of the Dragon Palace. We humans have been fighting against the sea monsters for millions of years. Countless predecessors have died in battle, and countless successors have come one after another. All the soldiers who have died in battle are fighting for our Tianzi continent, for a better home. Today, I hope that all the humans of Tianzi continent will remember the home that our predecessors protected with their lives, remember their blood, their sacrifices, and their fearlessness. Work hard and become stronger. One day, we humans of Tianzi continent will be able to pacify the entire underground sea and wipe out all the sea monsters. For the soldiers who have died in battle, this is a salute. In the memorial grounds, Wang Xian and the 5 godly monarchs flew over. Xiantianzi's gaze swept across everyone in front of him and spoke first. As the strongest existence in the entire Tianzi continent, Xiantianzi's reputation and dignity was the best among all the godly monarchs. Especially Xiantianzi's array formation. It was the defense line of the entire Tianzi continent. Everyone followed and saluted. All the humans of the Tianzi continent should fight. The blood that is flowing now is to reduce the blood of future generations. In the future, everyone cultivate, fight. Only when the underground sea has calmed down can we stop our blood flow. I hope that in our generation, we can remove the hidden dangers of the Tianzi continent. Blood, let us flow. After Xiantianzi finished his sentence, Emohen took a step forward and roared with a cold face. Fight! In an instant, everyone was ignited by Emohen's fighting spirit. They clenched their fists and roared angrily. If the underground sea was not pacified, the humans would shed another day's blood. As long as they pacified the underground sea, their descendants would not continue to shed blood. This was almost the wish of all the parents in the entire continent. Hehe. Wang Xian looked at the humans of the Tianzi continent, who were full of fighting spirit. A smile appeared on his face. He looked at the celestial king of the sky and the celestial king of swords. Seeing that they did not want to say anything, he took 2 steps forward indifferently. Dragon King, the Dragon King is about to speak. What would the Dragon King say? When everyone saw Wang Xian taking a few steps forward, their eyes flickered slightly. The higher-ups of the Federation looked over as well. Then, they looked worriedly at the godly monarch of the sky and the godly monarch of the sword. Would there be any accidents during today's memorial ceremony because of these 2 godly monarchs? In front of the AI, everyone also saw Wang Xian walking out. Some of them were filled with respect, some were filled with complicated feelings, and some were filled with hatred. My name is Wang Xian. You can call me the Dragon King. The end of this calamity is mainly due to my breakthrough. I have 2 things to announce with this memorial ceremony. Firstly, I have decided to establish a force in the underground sea. I will name it the Dragon Palace and guard a region. Secondly, this memorial ceremony should be the last one. Before long, the underground sea will be pacified and swept away by the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian's gaze swept forward. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. A strong sense of confidence and dominance appeared on his face. A faint sense of authority rose from within his body. Such strong confidence. The Dragon Palace is able to pacify the underground sea? Is that possible? When everyone heard Wang Xian's words, a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. Establishing a force in the underground sea. Pacifying the entire underground sea. There was no godly king in the Tianzi continent who had such great confidence. Hehehe, Dragon King. You killed countless experts from the city in the sky and the sword domain just to pave the way for the establishment of your Dragon Palace. At this moment, just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, a cold voice came from the side. Pave the way. Our Dragon Palace will not recruit any subordinates from the Tianzi continent. How can we pave the way? Wang Xian looked at the celestial king in the sky and said with a smile. Every time there is a catastrophe, hundreds of millions, or even billions of us humans will die at the hands of the sea monsters. Usually tens of thousands or tens of thousands of soldiers have died at the hands of the sea monsters. We have died in battle at the hands of the sea monsters, but we have no regrets. This is fate. However, if we die at the hands of humans, we will not be able to live up to it. There are only soldiers who have died in battle. How can there be soldiers who have been killed by humans? Our Tianzi continent has its own laws and rules. Anyone who kills innocents will have to pay the price. Dragon King, do you know your crime? The Sky God King locked his gaze on Wang Xian and shouted with a cold expression. They're here. Oh no. In front, everyone's expression changed slightly when they heard the Sky God King's words. This scene had finally arrived. Know your crime? A bunch of people who are courting death. So what if they die? Wang Xian looked at the Sky God King and said with disdain. Ha ha ha, so what if you are good? All the top-notch experts in my sword domain and Sky City have been killed by you. Today, I will tell you how it is. Today is the day of the memorial ceremony. I think it is just right to use your blood to pay tribute to the dead heroic spirit. The celestial king of the sky laughed maniacally and roared with killing intent in his voice. Use your blood to pay tribute to the heroic spirit. Boom! The sky god king let out a low roar from the side. An incomparably terrifying aura shot straight into the sky. Buzz! Don't affect the others. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Xian Tianzi waved his arm and sealed off his aura as he spoke indifferently. Emohen looked at Xian Tianzi and frowned. He didn't say a word. You think you can kill me? Aren't you too confident? Wang Xian looked at the godly king of sword and the godly king of sky, and asked coldly, "Ha ha ha, Dragon King. You killed all the god lords in Sky City. I will definitely take your blood for today's sacrifice. You will know very soon whether the two of us can kill you or not. Didn't you want to establish a force to pacify the underground sea? Then let us see your strength. If you can't even withstand our judgment, forget about pacifying the underground sea. Go to hell." The sword god king moved and instantly appeared on the left of Wang Xian. A huge sword floated above his head and locked onto Wang Xian. The two of them stared at him coldly, one on the left and one on the right. In an instant, the atmosphere around them changed drastically. Everyone in front of them turned slightly pale. "Sky Celestial King, Sword Celestial King, the two of you won't be able to keep the Dragon King alive. What's the point?" Xian Tianzi looked at them and said with a frown. "Xian Tianzi, the ones who died were all the experts from our Sky City and Sword Domain. They were the blood and sweat of hundreds of thousands of years. What do you think?" Sky Celestial King said to Xian Tianzi with bloodshot eyes. "I'm not wrong. The two of you won't be able to keep the Dragon King alive. It's just a waste of time." Xian Tianzi said indifferently, "Since we are going to make a move, we will naturally be prepared. Let's make a move." The godly Sword King smiled sinisterly and roared loudly. Buzz! The next moment, a resplendent imprisonment ring flew towards Wang Xian at a terrifying speed. It came directly to the top of his head and imprisoned him. Buzz! 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 Following that, figures suddenly appeared in front and behind Wang Xian. Even in the sky, there was a middle-aged man floating in the air. When everyone saw the three figures that suddenly appeared, their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 2411 2411 Slaying Godly Monarchs, Dragon Palace Establishment 2. What? These are three godly monarchs. Hiss, why did three godly monarchs suddenly appear? Who are those three people? Are they the helpers Sky Godly Monarch and the others found? These three godly monarchs suddenly appeared. The moment the three people suddenly appeared, everyone revealed shocked expressions. Three godly monarchs had actually appeared. Even during the calamity, it was extremely difficult for the Tianzhe Great Land to invite a godly monarch. Now the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch had actually invited three godly monarchs. This was completely beyond everyone's expectations. 3. Even Xian Tianzi and Imohen's expressions changed when they saw this scene. They knew how difficult it was to invite a godly monarch to help them. Now there were three godly monarchs helping them kill the Dragon King. It's not good for outsiders to participate in the matters of our Tianzi continent. Xian Tianzi's expression changed as he said to the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch in a deep voice. Outsiders? Xian Tianzi Godly Monarch, the Dragon King is also an outsider. Can he kill people from our Sky City and Sword Domain? Sky Divine King roared with a gloomy face. Xian Tianzi, Battle Technique Imohen. If any of you stop us from killing the Dragon King today, don't blame us for having a life and death struggle. Sword Divine King stood straight with a sword as he threatened with a sinister tone. Xian Tianzi and Invincible Battle Technique's expressions changed slightly. Sky Divine King and Sword Divine King could really do such a thing. Almost all the powerhouses that they had built up in their lifetime had been killed. They would definitely not be so satisfied. Three Celestial Kings, I, the Dragon King, should have no enmity with you, right? Wang Xian was surprised when he saw the three Celestial Kings that had suddenly appeared. There were three foreign Celestial Kings, including the Sword Celestial King and the Sky Celestial King. There were a total of 5 Celestial Kings. Hee, how can there be so many grudges in this world? Just do what you want. If I want to kill you, I will kill you. The old man in front of them said with a carefree expression. He didn't put Wang Xian in his eyes at all. The chances of 2 godly monarchs killing one were not high. It would be easy for the other party to escape. If there were 3 of them, there was a high chance that they would be able to keep the other party here. If there were 4 of them, with the imprisonment ring, there was a 90% chance that they would be able to keep the other party here. The 5 of them had a 100% chance of suppressing their opponents. The confinement circle has been locked on. Is there no need for me to make a move? The middle-aged man said with a smile on his face. Are you courting death? Wang Xian swept his gaze across the 3 of them. A hint of killing intent flashed across his eyes. Make your move as soon as possible. Don't waste time. An old man at the back heard Wang Xian's words and said indifferently. Clang. The sharp sound of a sharp sword rang out. Crash. 2 huge angel swords that were emitting white rays of light. The godly Sword King pointed one huge sword at Wang Xian, while the godly Sky King pointed 2 huge swords. A pair of pure white wings appeared behind his back. The killing intent instantly covered a radius of more than 10,000 kilometers. Buzz. Xian Tianzi and battle tactic Mo Hen immediately flew towards the front of tens of millions of people to withstand the terrifying killing intent. Otherwise, just the aftershocks would not be able to withstand the tens of millions of people. They would be severely injured. Do you need help? At the same time, Xian Tianzi immediately sent a voice transmission to Wang Xian with an unpleasant expression. There's no need. A calm voice immediately reached his ears. The Dragon King is doomed. He's locked onto by the confinement circle and is besieged by 5 godly monarchs. He's completely doomed. There's no way he can escape now. There are 5 godly monarchs. Any one of them might not be a match for him. After all, the Dragon King has just advanced to the God Lord realm. The Dragon King is in big trouble now. He might die. He just advanced to the God Lord realm not long ago. He's really unlucky. Who asked him to kill the experts of our Sky City and the Sword Domain? Serves him right. Serves him right. The appearance of the 5 godly monarchs caused everyone behind to panic. When they saw this scene, they were all discussing in shock. Ha ha ha. The Dragon King was still bragging about establishing a force to calm the underground sea. Now he's about to fall. This is what you get for killing my grandfather. Let your Dragon King be arrogant and die. Lord Godly Monarch, kill him. At this moment, on the AI, the descendants of the experts from the Sword Domain of Sky City saw this scene and revealed extremely ferocious expressions. They looked at the scenes on the AI and excitedly sent out messages one after another. When the others saw this, they sighed in their hearts. The Dragon King had just advanced, and it was impossible for him to kill 5 people of the same level. There was even no hope of escaping. Ha ha ha, Dragon King. Let's see where you can escape to now. Very soon, I will use my blood to pay tribute to all the heroic spirits in Sky City. The Sky God King couldn't help but laugh maniacally. His face was filled with bloodlust. Do you really think that 5 God Kings can kill me? Wang Xian looked at them coldly. Make your move. A person who is about to die still dares to shout. The Godly Sword King growled. Don't waste time. He is just a godly king who has just advanced. The old man in front of him said indifferently as well. Ha ha ha, alright. 5 godly kings. Today, my Dragon King will lead the Dragon Palace to kill 5 godly kings, and announce the founding of the Dragon Palace. When Wang Xian heard their words, he laughed arrogantly and roared loudly. Disciples of the Dragon Palace. He roared in a low voice. At the same time, he moved his palm and the 5 elements millstone appeared in his hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Here. As soon as Wang Xian finished his sentence, Ao Qitian, Ao Xingmu, Ao Qi, and Muzisin appeared in all 4 directions. With that, Ao Yao and the other Dragon Spur Dragon Seed hid in the void. Ha ha ha, let's fight. Kill them all. Wang Xian roared, and moved the 5 elements millstone in his hand. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant, the 5 elements millstone in his hand rose into the sky. Numerous black holes that seemed to be condensed from laws appeared in the entire sky in an instant. The terrifying formation covered a radius of 20,000 kilometers. The entire memorial square was covered in it. Even tens of millions of people were completely covered. A completely independent world appeared. Roar, roar, roar. The moment the black hole appeared, roars came from all directions. The members of the Dragon Palace who had taken human forms immediately revealed themselves. and a wild and violent aura surged out in all directions. The sudden change made everyone around them look extremely shocked. They looked at the members of the Dragon Palace in shock, looking at the space around them. What's happening? Tens of millions of people were stunned. The upper echelons of the Federation squinted as they looked at the four warriors of the Dragon Palace. The strange space, the terrifying beasts, the powerful pressure. The pressure from each of them was no weaker than the God Emperor. Another four undyings suddenly appeared. Everyone couldn't help but take in a cold breath. Chapter 2412 2412 Beheading God King, Dragon Palace Establishment 3. Let me introduce to you the Black Hole Spatial Disturbance Formation. This is also the formation that Sky City has always wanted. They even sent God Lord Level 9 and Peak God Lord experts to hunt me down. The current power of this formation can prevent the immortal God King from returning to his immortal God country. Since you guys want to kill me, let's give it a try, hee. Wang Xian's voice resounded in everyone's ears from within the black hole-filled formation. He stood in the middle of the five immortal kings. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he looked at the shocked people around him with a smile. Damn it! At this moment, the three people from the Heaven Beast Corporation revealed an extremely embarrassed expression. Their eyes swept across Ao Xingmu and the rest as they clenched their fists tightly. For more godly monarch warriors had suddenly appeared. They had not placed the Dragon King in their eyes before. Now, they were in big trouble. This strange array space was what they wanted to obtain. However, the other party had 5 undying godly monarchs. In a battle, they could forget about winning. Even if they won, how many of them would still be alive? Sky God King, Sword God King, didn't you say that there was only one God King? The elder in front growled with an embarrassed expression. At that moment, Sword God King and Sky God King's foreheads broke out in cold sweat. Their expressions kept changing. 5 God Kings, and the Dragon King, actually had 4 God Kings under him. There was a total of 5. Today, wanting to kill him was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The moment they couldn't kill him, the moment he retaliated, their Sky City and Sword Domain would have no way to defend. They wouldn't even dare to appear in the Tianze continent in the future. Thinking of this, their expressions were extremely dark. They had fallen this time, they had completely fallen. Who would have thought that the Dragon King's Dragon Palace would be so terrifying? 4 undyings and the Dragon Emperor actually has 4 God Emperor underlings, my God. My God! Is this the power of the Dragon Palace? This is too heaven-defying. No wonder the Dragon Emperor would say something like calming the underground sea. This, Sky and Sword God Emperor, have completely kicked a metal board. Below, tens of millions of people stared blankly ahead, swallowing hard. The strength of the Dragon Palace was beyond everyone's expectations. Is this his trump card? Xian Tianzi's expression changed slightly. Including Wang Xian, there were a total of 5 godly monarchs. Even he himself couldn't withstand this force. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. This time, it's our Heaven Beast Corporation's fault. We won't participate in the battle between you guys. In the future, our Heaven Beast Corporation will not have any thoughts of attacking your formation. The 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation looked at each other with gloomy expressions. The old man in front of them looked at Wang Xian and said directly, "What? Heaven Beast Corporation, you guys? Shut up. We have been screwed by you guys this time. If it's possible, we really want to kill you guys." Sky Celestial King's expression changed when he heard the Heavenly Beast Corporation's expert's words. He immediately roared. However, before he could finish his words, the elder in front of him interrupted him. This time, in order to obtain the array formation, the Heavenly Beast Corporation did not hesitate to take out a precious confinement ring that could confine a first-level godly monarch. However, the current situation was actually facing 5 undying godly monarchs. 5 godly monarchs were no longer a small faction. They could already pose a threat to the Heaven Beast Corporation. They knew that they could not suppress the other party, so they naturally gave up. Although they had provoked the other party, it was not to the point where they would fight to the death. Taking the opportunity to give up could reduce their losses. When the Sky and Sword Godly Monarchs saw the Heaven Beast Corporation's decision, a hint of fear flashed in their eyes. 5 against 2, and it was still in this space. If they were to fight, they would definitely die in the end. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to leave, then leave. Wang Xian looked at the 3 immortal godly kings of the Heaven Beast Corporation, with a hint of disdain on his face. What do you mean? Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, the expression of the old man at the front changed slightly. He stared at Wang Xian coldly. What do you mean? Of course, I want to keep you guys here. Wang Xian looked at him and smiled gently. Keep us here. Ha ha ha. Not to mention the Celestial King of the Sky and the Godly King of Swords. Even without them, it's impossible for you guys to keep us here. Dragon King, don't be ungrateful. Don't completely anger our Heaven Beast Corporation. The middle-aged man in the sky shouted with a cold face. His face was filled with killing intent. Ha ha ha, are all the Heaven Beast Corporation trash? They came to kill me together with the Sword God King, the Sky God King. Now they are actually fleeing in fear. What a joke. Since they are here, let's fight. Let's see who can get out alive in the end. Ha ha ha. When Wang Xian saw the middle-aged man laughing maniacally, he also laughed maniacally with a cold face. In a battle of the same level, Wang Xian had never been afraid of anyone. The people from the Heaven Beast organization wanted to kill him. Now that he was so strong, they wanted to leave immediately. Was that possible? Since they had made up their minds, they had to pay the price. When the people from the Heaven Beast organization heard Wang Xian's words, their faces changed drastically. They scanned the 4 members of the Dragon Palace around them gloomily. They had the same number of godly monarchs, yet the other party wanted to fight to the death with them. This was something that they had never expected. Damn it! The 3 of them had ugly expressions on their faces. This time their lives might be in danger. Sky Godly Monarch, Sword Godly Monarch, make your move. If you can't destroy me this time, I will smash your high and mighty Sky City to the ground. I will break all the swords in your sword domain. If you want to kill me, you will have to pay the price. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 5 of them, as he spoke with a furious expression. Waves of terrifying killing intent burst out from his body. Tens of millions of people felt the invincible aura from the Dragon King. Their faces were filled with shock as they watched with their mouths agape. 5 godly monarchs against 5 godly monarchs, and they actually dared to fight with their lives on the line. The Dragon King is too fierce. If they fight, the godly monarchs will also fall. This is too. Everyone was at a loss for words. They stared with their eyes wide open. Among them, the people from the city in the sky and the sword domain looked extremely embarrassed. Would their godly monarch be a match for the Dragon King? Would the city in the sky and the sword domain really be destroyed in the future? At this moment, especially on the AI. The scene before their eyes was clearly displayed on the AI. The entire Tianzi continent's 100 billion people watched in a daze. Aghast, the comments that had arrogantly said that they would destroy the Dragon King had disappeared. At this moment, everyone in the Sword Domain and Sky City felt endless fear. The strength of the Dragon Palace was no longer something that their godly monarchs could contend against. Next, the Sky City and the Sword Domain would probably face a huge disaster. Was it possible to pray that their godly monarchs would kill the Dragon King and destroy the Dragon Palace? Chapter 2413 2413 2413 Beheading God King, Dragon Palace Founding Era 4. Good. Dragon King, do you really think we are afraid of you? You have just reached the immortal God King realm, and a God King who has just reached the immortal God King realm dares to fight with us. Ha ha ha. The 3 of you from the Heaven Beast Corporation, you have been accused of being trash, and the other party won't let you off. Aren't you going to make your move now? Sword God King held the huge sword in his hand tightly and roared at the 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation. HMPH, shut up. Today, our Heaven Beast Corporation is going to kill 3 godly monarchs. 2 of them will be handed over to you. The old man at the front of the Heaven Beast Corporation roared at Sword God King with a cold expression. He stared at Wang Xian and said with a cold expression, "Since that's the case, let's fight. Ha ha ha, leave the Dragon King to me. I want to kill him with my own hands." The Sky Celestial King's face was ice cold as he locked onto the Wang Immortal and roared in an eerie manner. "HMPH, you must leave the Dragon King to us. East Heaven, you take over the Dragon King." The old man at the front of the Heaven Beast Corporation immediately retorted as he spoke to the middle-aged man in the sky. "All right." The middle-aged man in the sky nodded and replied loudly. He was still very confident in dealing with the Celestial King, who had just advanced. He wanted to suppress him and obtain the array formation that was currently trapping them. Humph. The God King in the sky saw that his opponent wanted to deal with the Dragon King. He snorted and didn't continue to fight. He knew that his opponent still wanted to obtain the array. Very good kill. Wang Xian saw that his opponent was still fighting with him. A smile appeared on his face. He moved his body and instantly attacked the middle-aged man in the sky. His arm instantly turned into a dragon claw. The 7-colored dragon claw tore towards him. "You're courting death. A thing that has just advanced to the immortal godly monarch realm dares to fight against me." The middle-aged man shouted, and a pagoda appeared in his hand. The pagoda was red, and the law flames on it were burning. He waved his arm, and the pagoda instantly became bigger and attacked Wang Xian. Boom! A terrifying collision represented the eruption of the battle. Roar! 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 At this moment, Ao Qitian, Ao Xingmu, and the others roared. A violent aura spread out like a terrifying hurricane. The blood-red energy was filled with blood and brutality. The 2 of them attacked the Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King together. Whoosh! 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 Mao Zedong pulled apart the distance and locked onto one of them with a terrifying bow and arrow. Ao Xingmu, on the other hand, waved his branches and headed straight for the other 2 godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation. The 2 of them joined forces to fight against the 2 of them. The battle completely erupted. The area affected by the battle between the 2 godly monarchs could reach a radius of over 10,000 kilometers. The battle between the 10 godly monarchs in this space appeared to be very small. Some of the aftershocks hit the black hole, disturbing the air array formation and set off waves of ripples. This array formation might soon be destroyed by the aftershocks. Wang! Below, Xian Tianzi immediately set up a large array formation, enveloping tens of millions of people inside. "No one is to walk out of the array formation," he shouted softly as his eyes sparkled as he looked at the battle above. "Big brother Xian Tianzi, should we take action to destroy the Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King?" At that moment, Battle Technique Imohen's voice suddenly reached Xian Tianzi's ears, causing him to be slightly stunned as he looked over in astonishment. "Hee, our Battle Technique aristocratic clan owes the Dragon King a huge favor. I might take action later." Battle Technique Imohen looked at him and smiled, his voice ringing in his mind. "Yes, now that I can guarantee that I can destroy the Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King, I'm prepared to take action. However, it's not easy to kill the people from the Heaven Beast Corporation. Otherwise, they might deal with our Tianzi continent." Xian Tianzi replied indifferently. "All right, find an opportunity to take action. It's best to kill them in one strike." The battle method Imohen said. "Is this the battle between the God Kings? It's too terrifying. The void seems to be tearing apart with cracks. Substantial laws can cause cracks to appear in the void. The immortal God King's divine kingdom is within the void cracks. If the 5-on-5 battle continues, there might really be a God King dying." From the back, everyone looked at the battle in the sky in shock. This was the first time that a godly monarch's battle was so close to them. "I wonder who will win." No matter who wins, as long as the Dragon King doesn't die, the city in the sky and the sword domain will be the biggest losers. After all, the Heavenly Beast Corporation won't protect them. What's going on with the battle now? The speed is too fast. I can't see it at all. Everyone on the AI was watching the video. At this moment, the video was filled with all sorts of colors. They couldn't see the battle clearly at all. Suppress him for me. How dare a trash like you, who has just advanced to the godly king level, provoke our Heaven Beast Corporation? I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. In the middle of the battlefield, the middle-aged man's eyes were filled with killing intent. The flaming pagoda in his hand instantly expanded to a radius of more than 1,000 kilometers. The flaming pagoda emitted a loud burning sound. The gigantic pagoda was pressing down on Wuxia. He stood on the pagoda and infused the power of laws into it. It was as if a god of fire had descended from the sky. Oh no, that fellow's divine weapon is very strong. The Dragon King has just advanced to the immortal God King level. He might not be able to block it. Below, Emohen, who was using the battle technique, exclaimed in shock when he saw this attack. The Dragon King is not his opponent? It's normal that he is not his opponent. After all, the Dragon King has just advanced to the immortal godly king level. Those who heard from behind were slightly shocked as they discussed among themselves. This is the time. Wuxia looked at the flaming pagoda in the sky and revealed a smile. He looked at the middle-aged godly king of the Heaven Beast Corporation, who was looking down on him ferociously. His face was filled with mockery. Buzz. At this moment, Ao Yao's figure appeared behind the middle-aged godly king. Provoking your Heaven Beast Corporation? You are courting death. Remember, don't provoke me in your next life. Wuxia looked at the middle-aged godly king and said indifferently. The middle-aged godly king was slightly stunned when he saw Wuxia's confidence. Suddenly, a death threat shrouded his heart. This caused him to be filled with horror. What was going on? Why did he feel the threat of death? His body instantly burst out with terrifying fire laws. However, at that instant, a claw that was as sharp as a dagger stabbed into the top of his head. The scythe-like claw pierced straight through his neck. One was light, while the other was darkness. Two extreme energies entered his body, instantly extinguishing his life force. No! The middle-aged godly monarch felt the life force in his body rapidly disappear. He widened his eyes and shouted in disbelief. His voice was filled with despair and fear. He could not believe that such a terrifying existence was hiding in this void. What? Eastern Sky. The other two godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation were horrified when they heard this despairing voice. They hurriedly turned their heads and looked over. When they saw a strange black and white shadow attached to the middle-aged man's back, their pupils constricted. They were filled with shock. Chapter 2414. 2414 Slaying the Godly King. Dragon Palace Establishment 5. What? What happened? What's going on? The middle-aged godly king of the Heavenly Beast group roared, causing everyone to be stunned. Below, everyone looked up in a daze, but most of them couldn't see the exact situation. The Dragon King is still prepared. This terrifying assassination of the godly king is so powerful. Emohen also saw the strange black and white figure. Looking at the figure behind the middle-aged godly monarch, he felt his scalp tingling. If this figure suddenly appeared behind him, he would be severely injured even if he didn't die. This was too strange. This creature is indeed terrifying and impossible to guard against. No wonder little brother Wuxia is so confident. Xian Tianzi was also staring at Ao Yao with a solemn expression. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, there was a high possibility of killing him. Oh no, a godly monarch from the Heaven Beast Corporation was actually killed. Damn it, is he trash? The Sky Godly Monarch turned his head and roared furiously when he saw this scene with blood-red eyes. The other party has an immortal godly monarch who is good at hiding and assassinating. Be careful, everyone be careful. Sword God King looked over, his eyes revealing a trace of fear as he roared loudly. Suddenly, a strange assassination of a godly monarch appeared. Their side instantly lost one person, and the current situation was 6 against 4. The moment another person fell, it was very likely that all of them would die here today. Damn it, break this array formation and let's escape." The two godly kings of the Heaven Beast Corporation roared furiously with a face full of shock and anger. They could no longer win this battle. Since they could not win, there was no need for them to fight anymore. They had to escape immediately. The two of them did not hesitate at all. They took on the attacks of Mao Zedong and Ao Xingmu head-on, and charged towards the black hole disturbing formation. "Ao Yao, let's block them. Don't let them escape." The black hole interference formation could not withstand their attacks. When Wang Xian saw that they wanted to escape, his eyes were filled with coldness. He moved his body and instantly attacked one of the elders. "Break it open and resist the attacks from behind." When the elder who was the leader of the Heaven Beast Corporation saw Wang Xian and the rest attacking, he gritted his teeth and shouted loudly. "All right." The other old man responded loudly. He clenched his teeth as well, and a huge shield appeared behind him. "Lock onto one of them." Wang Xian roared furiously, and the four of them attacked one of the old men. I'll hold them off. Elder Lu, you break the formation." The old man who was attacked sensed the terrifying energy behind him, and didn't dare to continue attacking the formation. He immediately turned around and ignited his life force to unleash a terrifying defense. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks of Wang Xian, Ao Xingmu, and Mu Zedong landed on his defense and immediately shattered it. The terrifying power of laws landed on his body and sent him flying backward. He was seriously injured. In a 4-on-1 situation, unless one had a terrifying formation like Xian Tianzi, it would be difficult to withstand it. Clearly, the old man did not have Xian Tianzi's strength. Bang! At this moment, another old man's attack landed on the black hole, disturbing the air formation, causing the entire formation to shake violently. Hold on for another 3 seconds. When the old man saw the violent fluctuations of the formation, a bright light appeared in his eyes, and he immediately roared loudly. Good. The injured old man roared loudly. In 3 seconds he could block it. Wang. However, in the next moment, the threat of death engulfed him. A black and white shadow appeared behind him. Pooh. The old man didn't have any strength to resist. He was instantly pierced through by the sharp claws. He stared wide-eyed, filled with disbelief. Another one, another undying emperor. Cough, cough, cough. The old man coughed violently as large amounts of blood flowed out. The old man who was attacking the array formation froze. He turned his head stiffly, and when he saw this scene, his eyes were filled with fear and shock. "No, Dragon King. If you dare to kill us, our Heavenly Beast Corporation will not let you off." The old man's expression was savage as he roared in fear. Two of them. In less than a minute, the two godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation were assassinated. He was the only one left. What made him feel the most despair was that there were 7 godly monarchs. 7 of them, a total of 7. Among them, there were 2 terrifying assassins. As for whether there were such terrifying existences in the surrounding void, he was not sure. Surrounding kill. When Wang Xian heard his threat, his face was filled with disdain. In the beginning, the 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation didn't put him in their eyes. Now, even if they knelt down and begged him, he wouldn't let them off. Boom, boom, boom. With Wang Xian's order, the next moment, all of them attacked the old man directly. 5 against 1. With the strength of Ao Yao and the other dragon spur, it was a piece of cake to kill him. No, no, no. When Ao Yao and the rest appeared around the old man, and when Wang Xian, Mao Zedong, and Ao Xingmu's attack came from the front, the last old man of the Heaven Beast group let out a desperate roar. The gap was too big. It was so big that he could not put up any resistance at all. Ao Yao and the rest had to spend 1.5 times more resources than the other dragon species to raise their combat strength to Immortal King level. Similarly, once they had the combat strength of Immortal King level 1, it meant that they could almost instantly kill those of the same level. This was something that the other dragon species could not do. When the last scream of the Heaven Beast Corporation rang out, it meant that 3 Immortal King level experts had fallen. There are still 2 more. Wang Xian casually put away their corpses and looked to the side. Aochi and Aochi were fighting against the Sky God King and Sword God King. However, at this moment, they were not fighting together. The atmosphere in the entire space was a little strange. The Sky Celestial King and the Sword Celestial King looked at Aochi and the rest warily from afar. Their eyes were looking in Wuxia's direction. At this moment, their foreheads were covered in cold sweat, and their faces were extremely pale. Even the sword that the Sword Celestial King was holding was trembling. Gulp! Below them, everyone swallowed their saliva and looked up at the sky in shock. Without the explosion of energy, many people could see it clearly. In less than 2 minutes, the 3 godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation had completely fallen. They did not have the slightest ability to resist. However, there were 2 more godly monarchs on the Dragon King's side, 2 powerful and strange godly monarchs. They looked at Sky and Sword godly monarchs and smacked their lips. Looking at their pale faces and despair-filled expressions, the 2 of them were in a daze. Now that it was 2 against 7, 3 undying godly monarchs had been destroyed within 2 minutes. How many seconds could the 2 of them hold out? This time, Sky and Sword godly monarchs were completely defeated. Chapter 2415 2415 2415 Killing God Emperor Dragon Palace Establishment 6. This is over. Sky God Emperor and Sword God Emperor are finished. The Dragon Emperor and Dragon Palace are so strong. They are simply too strong. 7 undying God Emperors and 2 mysterious God Emperor assassins. No wonder Dragon Emperor said that the Dragon Palace can calm the underground sea. 7 undying God Emperors. It might be possible. It's over. Our Sky City is completely finished. Dragon King and the others are actually so powerful. We are completely finished. Within the black hole space, everyone below looked up and gulped. Shock, fear, respect. Especially the people from Sky City and the Sword Domain. Looking at this scene, their bodies trembled. Such a powerful Dragon King. Such a powerful Dragon Palace. How could they defend? They could already predict the outcome. The city and the sky and the Sword Domain are completely cold. Now pack up and get ready to run. Ha ha ha. Just now you arrogantly said that the Dragon King will die. Now it's cold. The city and the sky pill of the Sword Domain. On the AI, everyone in the Tianzi continent looked at this scene in shock. However, at this moment, some people on the bullet screen began to mock. The 2 godly kings were the heroes of the entire Tianzi continent, but the Dragon King was also their hero. Now that the Dragon King had displayed such terrifying strength, many people were happy to see it. This was because the Dragon King was preparing to establish his power in the underground sea, which was a good thing for the entire Tianzi continent. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, even if they could not calm the underground sea, they could reduce the danger for humanity. 7 undying godly monarchs. This power was much stronger than the entire Tianzi continent. Sai, pack up and run. Let's go to the mysterious sky territory. The mysterious sky territory is not bad. Now that the godly monarch is dead, the top warriors of our 2 regions have all been killed. Even if we stay here, we will not be able to withstand the invasion of the sea monsters. Let's go. The Sky City and Sword Domain people watched. Many of them started to pack their things. The Sky City and Sword Domain were completely cold. Dragon Emperor, we have something to talk about. As the God Emperor of the Tianzi continent, give us a chance. Within the black hole space, Sword God Emperor looked at the 7 undyings surrounding them. He licked his lips and said with a pale face. His voice was weak and did not have the sharpness of Sword Principle at all. I'm not the God King of the Tianzi continent, and this is what you said. Wuxia looked at him mockingly when he heard his words. Dragon King, leave a line in your work. In the future, we swear that we will never find trouble with you again. We are willing to take out all our savings to save our lives. The Celestial King of the Sky stood there, and his expression kept changing as he spoke to Wuxia. Ehe, I don't believe in you guys. I only believe in dead people. Do it. Wuxia smiled sinisterly and ordered immediately. At the same time, his body moved, and he attacked the celestial king of the sky directly. Boom, 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 buzz, buzz. The next moment, the members of the Dragon Palace took action immediately. Ao Yao and the rest immediately hid in the void, and were ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. Oh no! The two of them were horrified when they saw Wang Xian, and the rest charging over. Celestial King Xiantianzi, please save us. As long as we are still alive, all of us can work together to calm the entire underground sea. Save us. The Celestial King of the Sky looked at Celestial King Xiantianzi and pleaded with a face full of pleading. I can't make the decision on this. Xiantianzi replied coldly when he heard his plea for help. Just now, he was not allowed to interfere, but now he wanted him to save them. Was that possible? If he did not say it, he would not agree, and neither would the Dragon King. The people from the Heaven Beast Corporation had been killed, so they had to die. No, save us. As long as you do not kill us, we are willing to do anything. The Sky Celestial King roared in fear. No one can save you today. You have brought this on yourselves. Wang Xian stared at him coldly. A terrifying energy blasted out. Faced with the attacks from Wang Xian and the members of the Dragon Palace, they kept retreating. As they retreated, they had to be careful of the assassinations around them. Buzz. More than 10 seconds later, Ao Yao and the other dragon spur appeared beside the Sky Celestial King at the same time. The moment they appeared, Sky God Emperor's eyes widened as his blood-red eyes roared in terror. How could he defend against that? He might not even be able to defend against one dragon spine's assassination, much less two. A scream sounded. It represented the fall of Sky God Emperor. An undying God Emperor that had suppressed the Tianzhe continent for hundreds of thousands of years had fallen under the attention of everyone in the Tianzhe continent. Once Sky God King dies, it will be Sword God King's turn. There's no room for resistance. Everyone thought to themselves when they saw this scene. The following battle was just as everyone had expected. 1 against 7. Even though Sword God King was much stronger than Sky God King, he was still swiftly killed. Pung! As Sword God King's corpse crashed heavily onto the ground, everyone pursed their lips. The end of the two godly kings represented the end of the two forces. The city in the sky and the sword domain might soon disappear from the stage of the Tianzhe continent. Buzz! Wang Xian landed on the ground and collected the bodies of the two godly kings. With a wave of his arm, the formation disappeared completely. I hereby announce that the Dragon Palace will enter the underground sea of the Tianzhe continent. Soon the Dragon Palace will unify the sea. Wang Xian stood at the front and looked at the tens of millions of people in front of him. Under the gaze of everyone in the Tianzhe continent, he announced calmly, "Hee, congratulations on the establishment of the Dragon Palace, Dragon King." Xiantianzi looked at Wang Xian and cupped his hands with a smile on his face to congratulate him. Congratulations, congratulations. Emohen, the battle technique, also said with a smile. Haha, the Dragon Palace will open in 3 days. Welcome everyone. We will not disturb you anymore today. Wang Xian said with a smile on his face. Ao Qitian and Ao Qi, lead some disciples of the Dragon Palace to the city in the sky and the sword domain. Bring all the eternal and immortal kingdoms of the two major forces to the Dragon Palace. He said the last sentence and flew directly to the underground sea. Everyone heard the last sentence clearly. Xiantianzi and the rest did not say anything. The winner takes all. The Dragon King and the others deserved the spoils of war. Moreover, the Dragon King didn't kill ordinary people, so they wouldn't stop him. The Tianzhe Continent Federation has announced that the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is one of the highest commanders in the Tianzhe Continent. The troops of the Tianzhe Continent Federation are under the command of the Dragon King. The Dragon King has averted this catastrophe. There is a high possibility of pacifying the underground sea in the future. The Dragon King will forever remember the history of our Tianzhe continent and be worshipped by the people of the world. The Supreme Commander of the Federation stepped forward and announced an order. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace had completely entered the Tianzi continent and entered this bright area. Chapter 2416. 2416 Dragon Palace was established, and it was the Heaven Beast Corporation. The harvest this time is not bad. In the underground sea, Wang Xian was looking around with a smile on his face. The corpses of 5 immortal godly monarchs could increase the combat strength of 5 immortal godly monarchs for the Dragon Palace after being killed. In addition to the treasures in their interspatial rings, they could increase the combat strength of 5 to 6 peak stage godly monarchs for the Dragon Palace. Among them, the Sky God King and Sword God King's immortal god country, Wang Xian was prepared to let Ao Crab devour them all. After he devoured them, he could completely reach the immortal god king level. This was not the combat strength of an immortal god king, but the immortal god king level. At that time, with his strength, he could fight against an eternal god lord level 3 existence. After all, he could directly devour the eternal god country of 2 immortal god kings. Once Ao Crab truly stepped into the level of an undying godly monarch, the underground sea king immortal would be able to get rid of him immediately. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on his face. Next, I have to find a place for the Dragon Palace. Since I have decided to unify the underground sea as soon as possible, the best location would be the central region. Wang Xian thought to himself. He took out his AI and looked at the map of the Tianzi continent. The map of the Tianzi continent was basically 50% split between the land and the ocean. Of course, this did not include the underground ocean beneath the land. Why don't I place the Dragon Palace at the Wall of Protection? Wang Xian was deep in thought. The Wall of Protection was considered to be the border between the ocean and the land. There was an important reason why Wang Xian announced the establishment of the Dragon Palace in such a grand manner. That was to prepare for the gathering of resources for the Dragon Palace. The Fire Hammer clan was a natural-born blacksmith. The weapons they produced could bring a lot of resources to the Dragon Palace. Furthermore, Feng Wuan was good at refining medicine. The pills she refined could also bring a huge amount of resources to the Dragon Palace. The improvement of the Dragon Palace would depend on the Dragon Palace itself. This way, it would not drag Wang Xian down and could even feed him back. It's at the bottom of the sea in front of the Wall of Protection. Wang Xian immediately decided to fly towards the location of the Wall of Protection. After his strength had improved, his speed was much faster. Furthermore, he did not have to worry about encountering sea monsters, even if he teleported. In the entire underground sea, unless a few immortal godly monarchs gathered together, there would not be any problems. As Wang Xian flew towards the Wall of Protection, the entire Tianzi continent was in turmoil. The Dragon King led his 6 subordinates to kill the Sky Godly Monarch, Sword Godly Monarch, and even the 3 godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation. Everyone was clear about this. The death of the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch represented the complete decline of the city in the sky and the Sword Domain. The 2 godly monarchs of the Dragon Palace brought their men and flew towards the city in the sky and the Sword Domain. The arrival of the 2 god kings did not kill the innocent. However, all the god lords and treasures that were killed in the Sky City were taken away by the Dragon Palace. No one dared to take advantage of the situation. This was because they were like ants in front of the god kings. Later on, the Federation government sent people over to contact the 2 god kings of the Dragon Palace, hoping that they would not completely destroy the Sky City and the Sword Domain. They also promised to give 50% of the taxes of the city in the sky and the Sword Domain to the Dragon Palace in the future. As for the city in the sky and the Sword Domain, they would be taken over by the Federation. If the sea monsters invaded the city in the sky and the Sword Domain in the future, the Dragon Palace would help to guard it. Wang Xian naturally agreed to such a good thing after he received it. He would be able to obtain a terrifying amount of resources without paying anything. Wang Xian was naturally happy to see that. Therefore, he did not order Ao Qitian and the rest to destroy the city in the sky. Everyone in the city in the sky and the sword domain heaved a sigh of relief when they received the news. This was the best thing for them. They did not have to move away. They would still have the protection of the Dragon Palace in the future. It was a pleasant surprise. This is it. At the bottom of the sea 100 kilometers away from the wall of protection. Wang Xian, Ao Xingmu, and the rest were standing at the bottom of the sea that was more than 100 million kilometers deep. Their eyes scanned their surroundings. Buzz. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The phantom image of the Dragon Palace appeared behind him. The phantom image slowly materialized. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, a Dragon Palace that was more than 1,000 kilometers in circumference appeared in front of them. The majestic Dragon Gate, and the towering ocean pacifying needle. A vast aura. I've finally found my footing in this resplendent land. Wang Xian looked at the Dragon Palace in front of him and smiled. Buzz, buzz. At this moment, good news came from the communication stone plate in Wang Xian's hand. The immortal kingdom of the Sky God King and the Sword God King had been found. It was difficult to find the immortal kingdom hidden in the void crack. However, the two of them had been killed. Through their auras, they could find the location of their immortal kingdom. This was the effect of the array formation. Wang Xian had used the array formation to give them a rough location. 5 immortal king corpses, 2 immortal kingdoms, and thousands of eternal kingdoms. The Dragon Palace's strength this time will receive a huge boost. Wang Xian smiled. This time, Ao Crab's devouring dragon race would receive a huge boost. With the least estimation, the peak combat strength of the Divine Lord of the Dragon Palace could reach up to 100. Including himself, the combat strength of the Divine Lord could reach 13. All members of the Dragon Palace, prepare to upgrade. Ao Crab, prepare to step into the immortal Divine Lord realm. Wang Xian growled in a low voice, his voice reverberating throughout the entire Dragon Palace. This is bad, Chairman. Something bad has happened to the 3 chief executives of our Heaven Beast group, who are heading to the Tianzhe continent. At this moment on a planet far away, the entire planet was dominated by technology, and many shiny metal buildings rose into the sky. In the sky, there were even many floating metal buildings, and the entire world was filled with fantasy. And in a room on top of a huge steel beast that was more than 100 kilometers in size. The steel beast, a true giant beast, had the appearance of a terrifying and ferocious space beast. And from afar, it was terrifying. This was a terrifying building made of metal, and it was also the lair of the Heavenly Beast Corporation. The Heavenly Beast Corporation was considered a third-rate force in this region. However, even if it was a fourth or fifth-rate force, it was still one of the top 100 billion planets in this region. Inside the head of the steel behemoth, an old man entered a chairman's office to report in a panic. Oh! There was a huge difference between the inside and the outside of the giant beast. The incomparably precious divine grass and divine tree were planted inside. An old man was sitting on a beast bone chair. When he heard his subordinate's report, his expression changed slightly, and he immediately stood up. What's going on? What's the problem over at the Tianzhe continent? The old man stood up and asked with a somewhat ugly expression. A godly monarch was called the chairman. Such a thing was absolutely strange on Earth in the past, but it was not rare in this resplendent land. The resplendent land created many kinds of civilizations. The person in charge of contacting the 3 bosses had no contact for a long time, so they went to the Heaven Lake continent to investigate. In the end, they received news that the 3 bosses were killed. Chapter 2417. 2417, 2417 took revenge. 3 bosses were killed. A puny Heavenly Lake continent has at most 5 undying godly monarchs. How can Chief Lu and the rest be killed? Could it be a scheme of the Heavenly Lake continent, purposely luring them over to kill them? Do they dare? In front of the undying godly monarch beast bones, the chairman of the Heavenly Beast Corporation stood there with a gloomy expression, growling in a low voice. A thick killing intent surged from his body, 3 undying god kings had fallen. This was a huge blow to their entire Heaven Beast Corporation. Their entire corporation only had a dozen undying god kings. Every god king had spent a huge amount of resources to nurture. Boss, this is a video from the Tianze Continent's AI. The subordinate who came to report also handed over a player with an ugly expression. The chairman of the Heavenly Beast Corporation received it and immediately opened it. When he saw the scene in the video, his face revealed an extremely angry expression. Pung! His palm slammed heavily on the table. Damn it! He could not help but let out an angry roar. His gaze was fixed on the 7 figures in the video. His expression was extremely ugly. Buzz! He tapped on the AI in his hand, and the figures instantly disappeared. Chairman, why did you summon us here in such a hurry? Soon, 5 figures walked into a luxurious room located in the giant steel beast and said to the old man, Old Lu and the other 2 who went to the Tianze continent have fallen. The chairman of the Heavenly Beast group said with a gloomy face. What? The 5 of them paused and looked shocked. How is this possible? Old Lu and the others. A middle-aged man opened his eyes wide. Before he could say anything, the chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation immediately played the video on the brain of the Heaven Lake continent. The video was recorded from their appearance until they were killed in more than 5 minutes. The Sky God Emperor and Sword God Emperor from the Tianze continent do not know the strength of their opponents at all, resulting in Old Lu and the others dying. The chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation roared softly. If those 2 were still alive, he would definitely not let them off. What a terrifying assassination. Is this the array formation? It can actually trap an undying god emperor. This kind of array formation is something only the Magus Beast Pavilion has. The 5 looked at the footage, their faces filled with seriousness. Chairman, even though they are only undying level 1, there are a total of 7 of them. Along with 2 peculiar assassins, they aren't easy to deal with. An old man sat down slowly, his expression changing as he spoke. They aren't easy to deal with. Even if we use all of our strength, it's not easy to destroy them all. A person beside him nodded in agreement. The 7 undying godly monarchs, even if they were only at the 1st rank, were still a considerable force. Their Heavenly Beast Corporation's strength was much stronger than this force, but they were not confident in completely annihilating them. Undying godly monarchs were very difficult to kill, especially since the enemy had 2 strange assassins. If they could not wipe out the enemy in one fell swoop, they would be in big trouble in the future. Especially those assassins. If they were to deal with the Heavenly Beast Corporation in the future, the Heavenly Beast Corporation would be in big trouble. It was obviously impossible to send people to attack them directly. However, how could the Heavenly Beast Corporation be willing to let the 3 godly monarchs of the Heavenly Beast Corporation die there? The entire Heavenly Beast Corporation only had 18 godly monarchs, and they had lost 1/6 of them. Chairman, is there any information on the Tianze continent? An elder asked. This can connect to the Tianze continent's AI. The chairman of the Heaven Beast group threw an AI over, frowning slightly. For a moment, the entire room fell silent. Everyone looked at the information the elder was searching for. The chances of revenge aren't high. If we fight them to the death, the other 2 mysterious assassins are a huge problem. The 7 undying godly monarchs are a little troublesome. However, this matter cannot be settled so easily. We can only take some revenge. It's best not to let the other side attack us. The old man controlling the AI said as he looked at the information about the Tianze continent. Continue. The chairman of the Heaven Beast group gestured to him. The dragon palace that killed Chief Lu, and the other 2 will announce its establishment 3 days later. At that time, all the powers and warriors of the Tianze continent will probably head over. At that time, we will know where the other side's nest is. However, that doesn't mean that their undying country is there. According to the information in their AI, there are 15 to 16 undying Emperor sea monsters in their ocean, and there might even be undying level 2 beings amongst them. However, some of them don't like the living environment above, and haven't attacked humans. However, the Dragon Palace is built in the underground ocean. This is an opportunity. We can attract the undying sea monsters to attack the Dragon Palace. As the old man spoke, he looked at the surrounding people and revealed his plan. More than 10 undying sea monsters attacking them? We can't destroy them. A bald old man frowned. Don't even think about completely destroying them. The ideal is for them to lose a few undying kings. The best is for the 2 mysterious assassins to die. As long as they die, our heavenly beast group can attack them directly. We are not afraid of them taking revenge. The elder immediately said. The chances of exterminating the other party are very small. Old Hong's method is feasible, but we have to be prepared. If the other party really suffers heavy losses, we can directly attack. By making the continent's underground sea undying godly monarch sea monster attack, we can use the ownerless law fragments to attract it. Furthermore, the most important thing is to rely on the Sky Valley King Beast to persuade the desolate beasts to attack. Those who dare to kill our Heaven Beast Corporation will have to pay a heavy price. If we can't destroy them this time, there will be a next time. The chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation immediately decided as he roared with a grim expression. There's no need to rush to deal with such enemies. They are weaker than us to begin with. If we can't find an opportunity in 10 years, then let's wait 100 years. One day, we will be able to completely destroy them. The other 5 nodded coldly. If not for the fear of affecting the business of the Heaven Beast Corporation, they would not be so apprehensive. But even so, the other party had to pay a heavy price. For this, they did not hesitate to use their strongest battle pet of the Heaven Beast Corporation, the Sky Valley King Beast. The Sky Valley King Beast was a level 2 Undying God King battle pet. It was also the strongest battle pet of their Heaven Beast Corporation. Desolate beasts could communicate with each other easily. They were confident that they could make all the immortal God King sea monsters in the underground sea attack. After all, the Dragon Palace's territory was in the underground sea. If it was on land, this method would not work. Leave this matter to Chief Bei. The chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation looked at the oldest elder and said, the Heavenly Beast Corporation's Northern Demon Life, the second strongest person in the Heavenly Beast Corporation, was also the owner of the Sky Valley King Beast. He would handle this matter, and there wouldn't be any problems. Chapter 2418. 2418 Dragon Palace is established. Sea Monsters Attack 1. The Dragon Palace will open in 3 days. AO Crab and the rest should be able to complete the upgrade. In the Dragon King's Hall of the Underground Sea Dragon Palace, Wuxia sat on the dragon throne and looked at the members of the Dragon Palace in front of him. Behind him, there were more than 20 fruits on the ancestral tree. Each of them contained a magical luster. Dragon King, it is estimated that there will be many people who will come and present gifts. At least 100,000 people. We have already arranged a banquet at the east gate of the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui said from below. Since they had invited some powerhouses from the Tianzi continent, they naturally had to be prepared. This was also to pave the way for the Fire Hammer clan to sell their weapons in the future. Yes, that's fine. In addition, Ao Chi Tian and Ao Chi, you guys lead the members of the Dragon Palace to clear the sea monsters in the surroundings. This is to prevent the sea monsters from coming and disturbing us. Wuxia nodded and ordered Ao Chi Tian and the rest. It's the Dragon King. Ao Chi Tian and the rest nodded immediately and led the members of the Dragon Palace to fly to the surroundings. After Ao Crab and the rest upgrade, they can clear out the sea monsters in the underground sea. If they can devour all the immortal king-level sea monsters in the underground sea, their levels can be upgraded by 1 level. As Wuxia spoke, he looked at the dragon transformation pool behind him. Once the underground sea was taken care of, the Dragon Palace would enter this bright starry sky. They would be competing with the demons, humans, desolate beasts and space beasts as well as the robots. I heard that the Dragon King has built a powerful base in the underground sea. This is simply too powerful. We are afraid of the sea monsters attacking us on land, But the Dragon King has placed the Dragon Palace in the underground sea. Ha ha ha. The Dragon Palace has 7 undying emperors. The Dragon Palace has the ability. This time when the palace opens, I'll follow my grandfather to take a look. I'll take photos of you. I've never even been to the 5th level of the underground sea. I really want to take a look. The Dragon Palace's power is too strong. I heard that the Dragon Palace is at the lowest level of the underground sea in front of the wall of protection, over 100 million kilometers below the sea. While the members of the Dragon Palace were preparing for the event 3 days later, discussions about the Dragon Palace were going on in the brain of the Tianzi continent. The battle yesterday had made the entire Tianzi continent boil. Everyone was full of respect for the Dragon King. Everyone was curious about the Dragon Palace and wanted to go there to have a look. However, many people were not qualified to go there. The Dragon Palace would be opened 3 days later. Only a Master God Realm expert or a Master God Realm expert would be qualified to go there. Everyone could also predict that those who were qualified to go to the Tianzi continent would go there to express their goodwill. After all, the Dragon Palace was now the most powerful force in the entire Tianzi continent. Even now, the people from the mysterious Sky Territory and the land of battle techniques were not a match for the Dragon Palace. Time passed very quickly. While the entire Tianzi continent was talking about the Dragon Palace, an old man stood on a giant beast in the sky above the Tianzi continent and stepped into the Tianzi continent's territory. Time is of the essence. Tiangu, look for the aura of a similar species. The old man held a brain and patted the Tiangu King Beast's body. The person who came was naturally someone from the Heaven Beast Corporation. 1 man and 1 beast. They were both level 2 immortal king existences. Roar roar. The Tiangu King Beast let out a low roar. The underground sea monsters were desolate beasts. They could sense each other when they were of the same species. Especially when they were close, they could sense the other party's territory. The desolate beast's domain awareness was very strong. The Sky Valley King Beast was a little bloated. It was about 3,000 meters long. It shook its body and immediately flew into the underground sea. The Tianzi continent's AI recorded the general location of the 4 undying God King sea monsters. As long as we find them, with Sky Valley's ability, we can find the other desolate beasts. As for how many we can attract, we aren't sure. However, the Dragon Palace will definitely pay the price. HMPH, this is just the beginning. The old man watched as the Tiangu King Beast entered the ocean. His body moved, and he flew towards the wall of protection. He had to determine the exact location of the Dragon Palace in the ocean before the wall of protection. Otherwise, if he didn't know the exact location, the sea monsters wouldn't know where to attack. Roar. Time passed slowly. In the ocean of the underground sea, a giant bloated beast came to a spot in the underground sea and let out a low roar. 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 Soon, a horrifying monster that was as huge as a sea python came out of the seaweed and stuck out its ferocious head. Roar. Roar. The king of Sky Valley stared at the sea monster in front of him and let out a low roar again. Roar. The sea monster that looked like a sea python responded. The 2 terrifying existences were talking slowly in this way. Soon, the sea python followed the bloated giant beast and flew in another direction. Why are there so many sea monsters in our area today? 2 days later, Aoyasha and the others from the Dragon Palace were patrolling the area within tens of millions of kilometers. What surprised them was that today, the sea monsters in the vicinity suddenly increased. One had to know that in the past 2 days, Leader Ao and the others had led the Thunder Division to kill all the sea monsters in the vicinity. And today, there were so many more. And there was even a Pinnacle God Lord. It was a huge surprise. However, even though it was a surprise, Aoyasha and the others swiftly killed the sea monsters they encountered. A radius of over 1,000 kilometers. Is this a God Emperor's undying country? Where are the other 6 hidden? Hee. The Dragon Palace has announced the establishment of the underground sea. Then I would like to see this place destroyed by the desolate beasts that day. It's really interesting. The corners of his mouth curled up. Chief Bei, how's it going? At this time, 5 silhouettes slowly appeared behind him. Are they here? It's done. The Tiangu King Beast has persuaded all the undying sea monsters. A total of 15. 1 undying level 2. Originally, many undying sea monsters didn't want to invade humans, but the other side had dug their own grave and built their nest in the underground sea, offending all the sea monsters. This place will no longer exist tomorrow. The old Chief Bei saw the silhouette behind him and smiled as he said, "If we are lucky tomorrow, we can kill them all." An old man said coldly, "Looking at the situation tomorrow, it's mainly those 2 strange assassins. If we are 100% sure that we can kill them, we can take action. Otherwise, try not to take action." Chief Bei said to the others, "It's Chief Bei. We know what to do." The rest of them nodded and looked at the majestic dragon palace at the bottom of the sea with twinkling eyes. In their eyes, this vast dragon palace was nothing but a ruin. Buzz! The 6 of them swept their gaze down and slowly disappeared from the spot. Everything depended on tomorrow. Dragon King, Ao Crab and the rest have advanced. At this time, in the dragon palace below, Prime Minister Gui reported to Wang Xian with a face full of surprise. Chapter 2419. 2419 Dragon Palace is established. Sea monsters attack too. On the 7th day of the catastrophe, there were no clouds in the sky above the ocean. The sunlight shone on the surface of the ocean, making the entire surface of the ocean look sparkling. I wonder what the Dragon Palace of the Dragon King looks like. The Dragon King and the others are also very powerful, since they dared to put the Dragon Palace in the ocean in front of our wall of protection. You should know that the sea monsters will invade from here every time there is a catastrophe, and the Dragon Palace will definitely bear the brunt of it. If the Dragon Palace can really calm down the underground ocean, that would be great. We can enter the underground ocean to play. On the wall of protection, over 100,000 people gathered. Most of them were middle-aged and old. Some of the youths beside the middle-aged man were filled with excitement, going to the residence of an undying god emperor. This was a very exciting thing. If I had known earlier, I would have chased after the Dragon King. What if I caught up with him? Sob, sob, sob. I feel like I missed my second life. Don't even think about it. When I sent a private message to the Dragon King didn't reply to me. It was too difficult for me. Wow, you actually sent a private message to the Dragon King. Humph. At the mysterious Sky Territory's expert seats, 50 to 60 women gathered together, their eyes filled with disappointment and excitement as they said, "Hee hee." An old woman shook her head with a smile when she heard the girls' words. Back then, the old woman had led a group of girls to introduce them to the former Dragon King, but the girls were still unwilling. Now they regretted it. Who would have thought that the young man from the mysterious Sky Territory, who had joined them back then, was now stronger and more powerful than the mysterious Sky Territory? All the experts from our Tinza continent are here. Teacher has a lot of face. Not far from them, all the girls from the mysterious Sky Academy's freshman class, one looked around with slight pride on their faces. Most of them were not qualified to come, but because they were the students of the Dragon King. Just this identity was enough. Moreover, the Dragon King also asked them to come, which made the girls very proud. Someone is coming from the ocean ahead. At this moment, hundreds of figures flew toward them. They held long halberds in their hands, and their faces were full of dignity. "Everyone, we are the Dragon Defense Department of the Dragon Palace. Please follow us." Ao Yeka glanced at all of them and said, "Okay, let's go." Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen nodded at the front and followed behind them. Buzz! Hundreds of God Lord level sea taming Yaksha waved their energy and covered everyone, flying toward the depths of the underground sea. 3 peak God Lord level experts, and 3 peak God Lord level experts from the Dragon Palace. Some experts felt their strength and were slightly shocked. They had never seen these peak God Lords before. In other words, the Dragon Palace was much stronger than they had imagined. The distance of more than 100 million kilometers was not very close. They teleported several times and arrived above the Dragon Palace 10 minutes later. Is this the deepest part of the underground sea? Is the huge building that is emitting seven-colored radiance like it is in a dream the Dragon Palace? Amazing! There is a towering Dragon Palace that is thousands of kilometers wide at the bottom of the underground sea. Everyone looked at the Dragon Palace below with shock on their faces. It was the first time that many Eternal Lord-level experts had come to the deepest part of the underground sea. Now that the Dragon Palace had directly built their base here, one could imagine how powerful they were. I just moved the other palaces here. Everyone please come in. Wang Xian shook his head and gestured for them to enter the Dragon Palace. All right. Xian Tianzi's face was full of smiles as he laughed out loud and walked into the Dragon Palace. What a rich spiritual energy. This is more than 10 times more powerful than the spirit gathering formation set up by our ancestor. When everyone entered the Dragon Palace, their faces were filled with awe and shock. They looked at the huge buildings in front of them and felt the extremely dense spiritual energy. Their eyes were wide open. Everyone this way please. Wang Xian walked in front and gestured to them with a smile on his face. What a generous gesture. It was not rare to see a palace building with a radius of more than 1,000 kilometers. However, Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen were shocked by the rich spiritual energy in it. Looks like little friend Wang Xian must have received the inheritance of the Celestial Emperor. Xian Tianzi thought to himself, everyone, this is a simple place. Please feel free to take a seat. Wang Xian brought them to a place to receive guests. This place had just been built not long ago and would be used to receive guests in the future. Dragon King, you don't have to be so polite. It's our honor to be here. That's right. It's our honor to be here. Everyone smiled as they spoke. The reason why we invited the powerhouses from the Tianzi continent here today is firstly to get to know each other. Secondly, it's mainly for the sake of our Dragon Palace. Our Dragon Palace is preparing to set up a weapons shop in the Tianzi continent in the future. Please take good care of us. Also, we will prepare some weapons this time. If anyone is interested, we will sell them at 90% of the market price. Also, regarding the Dragon Palace's war pets, our Dragon Palace will provide a large number of god-level war pets in the future. We hope that you will take good care of them too. Wang Xian exchanged a few simple words with the people from the Tianzi continent before he ordered the food. All the meat from the sea monster at the peak of the Divine Lord realm was extremely beneficial to ordinary Divine Lord experts. Following that, the members of the Fire Hammer clan brought over 1,000 weapons. Now that the Fire Hammer clan had mastered the array formation imparted by the Heaven formation, they had obtained a huge improvement in the aspect of crafting weapons. The weapons that were produced now were rare treasures for the Eternal Divine Lord. Over 1,000 weapons were brought over, causing quite a stir. This caused quite a few experts to be envious. A good weapon was definitely the second life of a cultivator. The expensive peak stage God Lord sea monster meat could be casually eaten, and weapons could be purchased one by one. It could be said that it was extremely harmonious. Many people found it hard to imagine that one day they would be so carefree at the bottom of the underground sea. This was the lifelong dream of many seniors. It's quite lively. I hope it will be like this next time. They will probably feel despair next. Ha ha ha. While the people in the Dragon Palace were talking and smiling, 6 figures were flashing in the sky. Terrifying sea monsters were charging toward them from all sides of the Dragon Palace. Chapter 2420 2420 Dragon Palace established. Sea Monster Attack 3. Senior Xian Tianzi, this fruit is a gift to you. Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time. In the underground Sea Dragon Palace, Wang Xian and Xian Tianzi were sitting at the front with their battle techniques. Mo Han. Wang Xian took out the fruit and handed it to Xian Tianzi with a smile on his face. During this period of time, Wang Xian had a lot of trust in Xian Tianzi's character. Now he could see why the celestial arch of heaven's formation didn't take Xian Tianzi as his disciple back then. His talent was too bad. Of course, this was from the perspective of Wang Xian and the celestial arch of heaven's formation. Previously, Wang Xian had given Xian Tianzi quite a number of array formations. These array formations were all recorded by the celestial arch of heaven's formation. However, he was still unable to break through the shackles and reach Immortal King level 2. This showed that his talent was up to par. If he consumed the normal embryo fruit, he could reach the level of a Grand Magus and stabilize the pinnacle of the universe. Of course, this also depended on his own luck. Xian Tianzi was slightly shocked when he saw the fruit that Wang Xian handed over. As he felt the terrifying energy from the fruit, his eyes widened slightly. Gulp. What kind of fruit is this? Why do I feel like my mind is 10 times clearer when I smell it? On one side of the position, the War Method ink marked 2 eyes light of stare. Xian Tianzi face is also full of shock, lips slightly move. Reporting Dragon King. A large number of sea monsters are attacking from all sides of our dragon palace. At this time, Aochi their figure very fly over loudly roar way. Ha! Wang Xian slightly stunned. All the people around also stunned, hurriedly stand up. Roar roar roar. Roar roar roar. Roar roar roar. At this moment, terrifying roars came from all directions. Boom boom boom. In the next moment, everyone could feel waves of terrifying water currents surging towards them. Water currents. It was extremely difficult for the seawater to surge at the bottom of the sea, that was hundreds of millions of kilometers deep. Even the movement of the Eternal Lord below level 3 was hindered here. It was unbelievable that the seawater was surging. Oh no, what kind of sea monster dares to attack us? The Dragon Palace has 7 immortal kings. At this moment, everyone's expression changed drastically as they looked around in shock. Wang Xian frowned slightly as well. He waved his arm towards the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the scouting images of the Dragon Palace appeared in front of them. There were a total of 5 images. They were the 4 sides and the aerial view. Hiss, how can there be so many sea monsters? Oh my god, look at the position at the front. What is that? There are so many immortal God King sea monsters. When the images appeared in front of everyone, the faces of the experts were filled with shock. Especially the young men and women, their faces were all pale. Just looking at the images, they felt a strong suffocating feeling. Shit, that's the blue python. That's the cracked desolate fish. That's the dock beast. And that 2-headed god raccoon. That 2-headed god raccoon is most likely an undying level 2 existence. Mo Hen, who was sitting at the side, suddenly stood up, his face filled with shock as he roared in a low voice. A total of 16 undying God King sea monsters. There's a high possibility that there's an undying God King level 2. Little friend Wang Xian, this is bad. When Xian Tianzi saw this scene, his face instantly turned ugly as he roared in a low voice. Roar roar roar. Ka 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 ka. The next moment, the roar continued. A solid law barrier surrounded the entire Dragon Palace. Chapter 2421. 2421 Dragon Palace. Sea Monster Attack 4. At the east gate of the Dragon Palace, Ao Crab was floating in front of the gate alone. At the west gate, Ao Qitian was leading a battle group of the Dragon Palace. It was not the entire battle group of the Demon Combat Division. There were the Saturn Turtle with the strongest defense, the Heavenly Eye Arrow Division with the strongest long-range attack, the Phoenix Dragon of the Mount Division, and the supporting Dolphin Clan. At the south gate, Ao Xingmu was the leader, the Saturn Turtle Dragon, the Sky Eye Arrow Division, the Phoenix Dragon, the Starwood Dragon, and the support Dolphins. At the north gate, there were more sea monsters. With Ao Qi and Mu Zhe-sun as the leaders, the Dragon Palace's various troops were mixed in. As for Strange Demon, he was completely hidden in the void. Such a formation was also the perfect battle formation of the Dragon Palace. Right now, excluding him, the Dragon Palace had a total of 12 Undyings. Aohi alone had 5 Undyings at the East Gate. The rest, 11 Dragon Palace Undyings, were one-on-one. Under such circumstances, the pressure on the Dragon Palace wasn't too great. And right now, the Dragon Palace had over 100 pinnacle god lords. Of course, the strongest foundation of the Dragon Palace was still Aohi. Aohi had truly stepped into the Immortal King level. He could rival or even defeat a level 3 Immortal King level sea monster. Although Aohi was defending the East Gate alone, it would not take long for him to finish the battle here. Everyone was stunned when they saw Wang Xian's relaxed expression. If they were not in a hurry at this critical moment, when would they be? My young friend Wang Xian, there are more than a dozen immortal godly monarchs in your Dragon Palace. At this moment, Xian Tianzi, who had been staring at the scene in front of him, suddenly asked with his eyes wide open. Just from the scene, he could feel the powerful auras of the leaders of the Dragon Palace. That kind of arrogance and fearlessness, the fighting spirit when facing the immortal godly monarchs and sea monsters, was definitely not something that the eternal godly monarchs could unleash. Let's see. Wang Xian smiled and gestured for them to continue watching. What? The Dragon King is confident in dealing with these sea monsters? There are more than a dozen immortal god kings in the Dragon Palace. Wasn't it the full strength of the Dragon Palace last time? When the people from the Tianzi continent heard Wang Xian's words, their faces were filled with shock. The next moment, everyone stared at the 5 images in the sky in front of them. Roar! 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 In front of the 4 dragon gates, the roars and aura of the sea monsters still stifled everyone. However, they did not feel any fear from the experts from the Dragon Palace. There were not many members from the Dragon Palace. There were only a few 100,000 of them, but each of them exuded an invincible aura. Roar! Just when all the sea monsters were about 200 kilometers away from the Dragon Palace, at the East Gate of the Dragon Palace, the desolate figure in the image suddenly charged forward at a terrifying speed. At the same time, his body underwent a terrifying transformation. He had a ferocious and terrifying dragon head, and 18 terrifying claws. His body was 7 to 8,000 meters long, and he was emitting a terrifying demonic might. Ao Crab directly attacked the endless sea monsters at the East Gate. Hiss! When everyone saw Ao Crab's body size and his indomitable aura, their faces changed greatly. However, what happened next shocked them even more. The 18 claws were instantly covered by a resplendent law. Dark yellow law energy wrapped around the claws, causing them to grow several 100 kilometers in length. However, at the next moment, Ao Crab's claws attacked. The 5 undying sea monsters let out a howl. The terrifying attack immediately met it. Pung pung pung. In the next moment, a terrifying scene appeared. Of the 5 attacking sea monsters, 3 of them were instantly pierced through. Another was turned into blood mist. Even the 2-headed god raccoon, that looked like an undying level 2, was sent flying. Behind, within a 50,000 kilometers radius, all the sea monsters were attacked. Over 10 billion sea monsters were instantly killed. The difference was huge. Howl howl howl. The sea monsters at the East Gate almost wet their pants, especially the 5 undying sea monsters. They immediately tried to escape in fear. Howl howl. However, in the next moment, before an undying sea monster could escape, a claw grabbed it. A terrifying resplendent law rushed into the sea monster's mind. Pung! Its life force swiftly vanished. The other 4 UNDYGNGS immediately returned to their undying countries in fear. Where they were earlier, a black and white shadow flashed past. Some blood was collected. Howl howl howl. The sea monsters that were still alive almost went crazy, wishing they had legs and wings all over their bodies. They fled at an even more terrifying speed. One could even see some sea monsters spitting out a yellow liquid. They were truly scared to death. Ao Crab's attack ended in less than 2 seconds. 1 undying sea monster was killed. The other 4 escaped heavily injured. In just 2 seconds. Rumble. So terrifying, so strong. At this moment, everyone in the Tianzhe continent within the Dragon Palace trembled violently when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva. In a few seconds, all the sea monsters in the east were escaping. This terrifying attack, that incomparably huge creature, was simply shocking. This is your underling Dragon King. Battle technique. Mohen was completely stunned. Undying God King level 3 warrior. Xian Tianzi softly spat out these words, his face filled with shock. Undying God King level 3. Star Source planet's strength was very strong. Even the strongest overlord was only at Undying God King level 3. With such strength, in this huge region, it was already considered a 4th or 5th tier region. Even amongst the hundreds of thousands of nearby planets, it could be ranked within. Now there was actually such an expert in the Dragon Palace. In addition to the other godly monarchs, it meant that the Dragon Palace was not much weaker than the Overlord sect. In that case, the Dragon Palace was also equivalent to a 4th or 5th rate force in this greater world. This was too terrifying. Just when everyone thought that the Dragon Palace was likely to be destroyed today, the Dragon Palace actually erupted with such terrifying strength. Terrifying. What? How? How is this possible? However, at this moment, about 1,000 kilometers above the Dragon Palace, the six figures couldn't help but tremble when they saw the scene at the East Gate. Their hidden figures were instantly revealed. Chapter 2422. 2422-2422, Calming the Underground C1. Undying God King Level 3. This faction even has an Undying God King Level 3 warrior. Damn it, damn it. In the sky above the underground Sea Dragon Palace, the Heaven Beast organization's people looked towards the East Gate with extremely ugly expressions. Their expressions sinking. Undying God King Level 3. Their chairman was only at this level. The mission has failed. We cannot become enemies with this Dragon Palace. Otherwise the losses will be huge. Director Bei, who was in the lead, said with a gloomy face. They couldn't take the opportunity to attack now. Even if they did, they would be courting death. Moreover, they would bring great trouble, and even disaster to the Heavenly Beast Corporation. Look, there's someone up there. In the Dragon Palace, a young man suddenly pointed at an image in the center, and said in surprise. In that image, due to the fluctuation of the 6 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation, their figures were clearly detected by the detection formation of the Dragon Palace. There are really people. Who are they? Some people looked over, and their faces were filled with surprise. Why would someone suddenly appear in the sky above the Dragon Palace at this time? Who were they? Aohi, lock onto the 6 people in the sky and attack them immediately. When the young man noticed them, Wang Xian had already noticed the 6 figures that had suddenly appeared. These 6 figures were obviously hiding in that place. Due to special circumstances, their figures were revealed. With the detection methods of the Dragon Palace, unless the opponent was an Immortal King-level powerhouse, they would be able to detect them. Could it be that the invasion of the underground sea monsters has something to do with them? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows as his eyes sparkled. Roar! Roar! Upon hearing Wang Xian's order, Ao Crab did not hesitate at all. He flew towards the top of the Dragon Palace at a terrifying speed. His cold gaze locked onto the 6 figures above him, as his terrifying claws slashed towards them. With Ao Crab's current speed, he arrived in front of them in less than a second. Not good, we've been discovered. Run, run now. An old man saw Ao Crab's attack, and his expression changed drastically. He immediately roared. The Tiangu King Beast is still in the north. Chief Bai's expression changed slightly as he cried out in alarm. Chief Bai, the Tiangu King Beast knows to run. A middle-aged man hurriedly roared, and his figure instantly disappeared. Chief Bai gritted his teeth, sensing Ao Crab's terrifying aura. His body moved and instantly disappeared from the spot. When Ao Crab rushed over, the 6 figures had already disappeared. Roar! At this moment, a terrifying roar came from the north. Ao Chi's figure flew backward instantly. Hundreds of members of the Dragon Palace were instantly killed. Dragon King. The sea monster at the North Gate has the strength of a level 2 immortal king. Request for reinforcements. Muzison was shocked when he saw this scene. He immediately shouted at Wang Xian. Ha! In the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian's expression changed when he saw the scene. What kind of sea monster is that? There doesn't seem to be such a sea monster in the underground sea. Something's wrong. This sea monster doesn't seem to be an underground sea monster from our Tianzi continent. It doesn't have the characteristics of a marine creature. At the side, Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen looked at the powerful desolate beast at the North Gate with a puzzled expression. They had lived in the Tianzi continent for more than 10 years, so they had some understanding of the underground sea monster. It's indeed not an aquatic creature. Wang Xian stared at it. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. His body moved, and he instantly teleported in the direction of the North Gate. Ao Crab, you must stop that level 2 immortal king level desolate beast. Wang Xian growled and flew out of the North Gate. In the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian could reach any place in an instant. Therefore, it did not take him any time to travel from the East Gate to the North Gate. Buzz! Wang Xian flew out of the North Gate. With a wave of his arm, the 5 elements millstone flew straight up. Chapter 24-23. 24-23 2423 Flat Roof 2. Peng! The huge body of the Tiangu Emperor Beast landed heavily on the ocean floor, making a muffled sound. At this time, around the North Gate, the 3 undying Emperor Sea monsters were shivering in a corner, looking at this scene in fear. Howl, howl, howl. They immediately attacked the black hole space disturbance formation in fear, filled with panic and fear. If they knew this would happen, they wouldn't have listened to that bloated fellow. What other party entering their domain? They would be annihilated in the future. Such a terrifying existence. Even if they entered their domain and chased them away, they wouldn't say anything. Howl, howl, howl. Ao Crab let out a furious howl. The 3 undying Emperor level 1 sea monsters trembled. Roar, roar, roar. They suddenly lay on the ground and showed their submission to Ao Crab with respect. It was too ferocious. Ao Crab was simply too ferocious to them. One of their own kind, who was stronger than them, was killed. Even if they didn't submit, they would be killed. To the sea monsters and desolate beasts, it was not wrong to submit to the strong. Ha! Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he saw the 3 sea monsters actually submit. Ao Crab, suppress them and make them submit. Wang Xian flew over immediately and said to Ao Crab, "It's the Dragon King." Ao Crab nodded immediately and looked down at the 3 level 1 immortal king sea monsters. Submit! A terrifying pressure covered them. At the same time, Wang Xian flew over and squeezed out 3 drops of dragon blood. Devour, don't resist. Ao, he warned with a face full of killing intent. Ao, Ao. The 3 immortal king sea monsters didn't dare to resist at all. They immediately nodded respectfully and didn't dare to move. A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. Go and get rid of the sea monsters elsewhere. He continued to order Ao. It's the Dragon King. Ao, he nodded, immediately flying towards the west gate. My God! That undying level 2 sea monster was killed by the warrior from the Dragon Palace. Look at those 3 sea monsters. The Tsonglon Python and the others were actually subdued by the Dragon King. They stood in front of him and didn't dare to move. Hiss! The sea monsters in the underground sea were all escaping. The Dragon Palace is simply too terrifying. Especially that lord from the Dragon Palace, he's too powerful. Within the Dragon Palace, the people from the Tianzi continent watched the scene, their faces filled with shock. All the undying Emperor-level sea monsters in the entire underground sea attacked, along with countless Eternal God Lord-level sea monsters. However, facing the Dragon Palace, they were all killed in a frenzy. 2 undying Emperor-level sea monsters had died. 3 had submitted. With such terrifying strength, it wasn't hard to calm down the underground sea. As for the west and south, Everyone could already predict that when the Undying God King Level 3 warrior from the Dragon Palace charged over, the sea monster invasion would be completely over. The current Dragon Palace isn't much weaker than the Overlord sect. Xian Tianzi and Emohen exchanged glances and exclaimed in shock. It's good to have the Dragon Palace. This way, we can go to the greater world to take a look in the future, and not have to spend most of our time here. Xian Tianzi revealed a smile. The reason why he hadn't improved all these years was firstly because of his talent, and secondly because of the opportunities. He wanted to guard the Tianze continent all year round. Naturally, he wouldn't get any opportunities. After the Dragon Palace settled the underground sea, he could explore the starry skies and search for his own opportunities. Howl, howl, howl. Outside, the roars of the Undying Emperor could be clearly heard by everyone. Of which, there were over 200 pinnacle Eternal God Lord level sea monsters. Under the attacks of Wuxia and the rest of the Dragon Palace warriors, they were swiftly killed. Rumble. The sea monster warriors that attacked the Dragon Palace this time took up about 80% of the entire underground sea. At least 80%. Now that all of them have been killed by the Dragon Palace, doesn't that mean that the crisis in the underground sea of the Tianze continent has been solved? The Tianze continent has been fighting with the sea monsters for millions of years. I didn't expect that we could see the underground sea being pacified today. At this moment, everyone in the Tianze continent of the Dragon Palace looked on with excitement. Some of the elders couldn't help but burst into laughter. Humans have been fighting with the sea monsters for millions of years, and more than 10 million humans died in the sea monsters every year. Many of their elders and descendants had died in the mouths of the sea monsters. Now that the crisis in the underground sea was almost resolved, some people were so happy that they cried. This was a historic moment for the entire Tianze continent, and it was also the most exciting moment for the entire Tianze continent. The Dragon Palace, which had pacified the underground sea, would naturally be remembered in the history of the entire Tianze continent. Because of the Dragon Palace, all the calamities and enemies in the history of the Tianze continent had been completely eliminated. Dragon King, these are the blood of the escaping immortal king sea monsters. They have all been collected. At the northern gate, a few strange demons appeared in front of Wang Xian and handed him the collected blood. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head and smiled. This time, the invasion of the sea monsters has saved the Dragon Palace a lot of time. He looked at the fresh blood in his hand, and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He looked at the corpses that were being absorbed by the ground in front of him. With so many corpses, Wang Xian could not predict how much the Dragon Palace would be able to improve. Putting everything else aside, the combat strength of the Immortal King could be increased by at least 30 to 40. Ao Crab's combat strength could be increased by at least 4 to 5. As for the Immortal King level 4 combat strength, it required too many resources. These resources were completely insufficient. Even so, Wang Xian was already satisfied. Most importantly, with this fresh blood, the 11 Immortal King sea monsters that escaped could be captured. However, these Immortal King sea monsters were not ready to be killed. Instead, they were ready to be tamed and sold. 14 Immortal King sea monsters. This was a terrifying amount of resources. After being sold, it would be easy for Wang Xian to advance one level. He might even have the combat strength of a level 3 Immortal King. Are those people from the Heaven Beast Corporation? Wang Xian thought of the 6 figures in the sky above the Dragon Palace. Each of them had the strength of an Immortal King. Among the people he had offended, only the Heaven Beast Corporation had such strength. If there's a chance, let them know the price. Chapter 2424. 2424 Underground C3. Wang. The sea monsters attacked quickly and died quickly. In the face of the absolute power of the Dragon Palace, countless sea monsters fell in front of the palace, turning into dragon blood in the dragon pool. With so many sea monsters, It could actually increase the entire Dragon Palace's power by 2 to 3 times, maybe even 4 to 5 times. After all, Aosia's swallowing dragon race, after swallowing large amounts of eternal god country undyings, their power would undergo a qualitative change. I'm sorry, everyone. I can't entertain you anymore. Our Dragon Palace is preparing to take this opportunity to eliminate the dozen immortal king sea monsters that escaped. Wang Xian returned to the front of the group of people from the Tianzi continent and said with a smile on his face, "Thank you, Dragon King, for helping our Tianzi continent to solve the problem. Thank you, Dragon King." At this moment, Xian Tianzi bowed deeply to Wang Xian with a sincere face and thanked him loudly. "Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon Palace, for pacifying the underground sea." Emohen also bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon Palace, for pacifying the underground sea." At the back, everyone was half kneeling on the ground as they shouted out respectfully and gratefully. A few days ago, when the Dragon King said that he wanted to pacify the underground sea, not many people believed him. However, today, the underground sea had almost been pacified. It was just the Dragon Palace alone. If the Dragon Palace pacified the underground sea, many fewer people would die in the Tianzi continent every year. "Everyone, you don't have to be so polite." Wang Xian looked at all of them and smiled faintly. "This bow is something that we have to do. Since you are all very busy, Dragon King, we shall not disturb you anymore." In a few days, the Tianzi continent will hold a day of liberation. I wonder if the Dragon King will have the time then? Xian Tianzi shook his head and asked Wang Xian with a smile. "A day of liberation? Let's see then. If I don't go, I will send people from the Dragon Palace over." Wang Xian nodded and said, "All right, we won't disturb you anymore." Xian Tianzi cupped his hands and led everyone from the Tianzi continent away. Behind them, everyone's faces were filled with excitement. This time, not only did they broaden their horizons, they also received this huge piece of good news. Today could be said to be the liberation day of the entire Tianzi continent. In the future, they would no longer need to worry about their own comfort. The soldiers would no longer need to guard the front lines and fight against the sea monsters day and night. If today's matter is announced, I'm afraid that the entire Tianzi continent will be in an uproar. Everyone held back the excitement in their hearts. Some young men and women were prepared to show off on the AI when they returned this time. "Dragon King, all the sea monsters outside have been cleared." Not long after the people from the Tianzi continent left, Aohe and the rest rushed over and reported to Wang Xian. "Get ready. Take the opportunity to finish off the 11 immortal king sea monsters in the underground sea." Wang Xian immediately said, "It's the Dragon King." The members of the Dragon Palace nodded. Soon, all the immortal king combat strength members of the Dragon Palace had gathered. "Let's go." Wang Xian took out drops of blood and used the formation to locate the sea monsters. After locking onto a sea monster's location, they moved and flew away immediately. The 12 immortal king-level powerhouses of the Dragon Palace were sailing in the underground sea. No sea monster dared to approach them. Back then, Wang Xian had to be careful when he entered the underground sea. Now he had no scruples at all. Time passed slowly. It was not an easy task to find the nest of the undying godly monarch sea monsters. Some of the nests of the undying godly monarch sea monsters were hidden very well. Even if they knew the general location, they still spent more than 10 hours. And just as the Dragon Palace subdued the sea monsters one by one, the entire Tianzi continent was in an uproar. Not only did the young men and women who came to the underground sea like to show off, even Emohen Emperor liked to show off. The first thing he did when he came out of the ocean was to roar. The Dragon Palace is invincible. 10 minutes ago, 16 undying sea monsters led 80% of the sea monsters to invade the Dragon Palace. They were killed by the Dragon Palace warriors. With the Dragon Palace's strength, the underground sea will be pacified in a few days. In the future, the entire underground sea will be ruled by the Dragon King. With the Dragon Palace as the main force, our Tianzi continent will be completely liberated. This shout made battle technique Emohen's face turn red. He had used all his strength. Battle technique Emohen was excited too. A god emperor being trapped in the Tianzhe continent. They weren't happy either, but what could they do? This was their homeworld, his home. His descendants were all here. Furthermore, due to the existence of the underground sea, at least tens of thousands of his descendants had died in battle, or even more. The peace of the underground sea represented the stability of the heavenly swamp continent. Battle Dharma Emohen's voice resounded across half of the heavenly swamp continent. Everyone who heard this voice was immediately stunned. This seems to be the voice of Jean Fa ancestor. It's his voice. What? A dozen undying ocean monsters from the underground sea invaded the Dragon Palace and were killed by the warriors of the Dragon Palace. The underground sea is about to be pacified? Is this real or fake? It can't be a lie. This is the voice of Jean Fa ancestor? Everyone who heard the voice felt unbelievable. More than a dozen godly monarch sea monsters invaded the Dragon Palace. All of them were killed by the experts of the Dragon Palace. The underground sea was pacified. Every piece of news was extremely shocking and unbelievable. Some people even wondered if this was the voice of the Patriarch of War and the godly monarch of war. The person in charge of the intelligence system announced this good news to the entire Tianzhe continent immediately. Announced that the Liberation Day will be set in 3 days, and the entire continent will celebrate. At the Wall of Protection, the highest commander also grinned and said happily to the old man beside him, "Yes, sir." The old man also nodded excitedly and immediately gave the order. Soon, a pop-up window forcefully appeared on the AI. The Dragon Palace had pacified the underground sea, and the underground sea would be ruled by the Dragon King and the Dragon Palace. The title was accompanied by a simple introduction of the situation just now. When everyone saw the forced image on the AI, their faces were slightly stunned, and then their bodies began to tremble. If Emohen's roar just now had caused many people to have some doubts, then the announcement on the AI would completely announce the liberation of the Tianzhe continent. Today was destined to go down in history. The Dragon Palace and the Dragon King were destined to shake the entire Tianzhe continent. Chapter 24-25 2425 2425 The strength of the Dragon Palace had increased tremendously. Just as the entire Tianzhe continent was decorated with lanterns, and the people of the entire Tianzhe continent were cheering, Wang Xian led a group of powerhouses from the Dragon Palace to clear out the last sea monster in the underground sea. Out of the 11 immortal God King sea monsters, 4 of them would rather die than submit. They were killed by Wang Xian and the rest. The remaining 7 were all subdued. At the same time, in the nest of these sea monsters, Wang Xian had a lot of unexpected gains. 1 young immortal king, 2 immortal king-level godly herbs and 1 godly tree. There were also large amounts of immortal king-level metal materials. It could be said that all the treasures in the underground sea of the entire Tianzhe continent had been taken over by these immortal king sea monsters. They had been able to break through to their current level mostly because of these treasures. Just these treasures alone could increase the Dragon Palace's strength by 2 undying emperor levels. With this, the underground sea has been completely pacified. From now on, Ao Crab's devouring dragon only needs to find the god countries that have been killed by the eternal god lord to devour, and it will be able to increase its strength too quickly. The Dragon Palace needs to settle down for a while. The improvement this time is too fast. A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face as he led the members of the Dragon Palace towards the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui, you can make the arrangements for the improvement this time. Upon returning to the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian handed over the allocation of resources to Prime Minister Gui. Prime Minister Gui was dedicated to considering the overall situation of the Dragon Palace. He would not have any selfish motives. Wang Xian was very relieved to leave the matters of the Dragon Palace to him. After the order was given, all the members of the Dragon Palace immediately began to improve. He led his subordinates and began to sweep the entire underground sea, searching for the eternal God country and God-level God country. This time, the devouring dragon was the fastest to improve. Their devouring God country could improve quickly. This time, there were a total of 15 undying God countries, and there was even a level 2 undying God country. This undying emperor's energy was even higher than a God emperor. After all, an undying God country was his energy source. They only needed to swallow 2 undying emperors, and they would be able to level up to undying emperor. One could imagine how terrifying the swallowing dragon's level up would be. He was only a level 3 undying emperor. He could add another 7, along with the other 100,000 eternal God Lord level swallowing dragons. A single devouring dragon was more powerful than the entire dragon palace. The main reason was that the devouring dragons were the core of the Bug Clan's technology. Of course, the devouring dragons had a flaw too. They could only fight 2 levels above them. They couldn't compare to the pinnacle dragon of the Dragon Palace. Even he couldn't fight 3 levels above them. His upper level was lower than the Dragon God. Even so, it was already very terrifying. Back then, the notorious bug race that swept across the universe was no joke. Wuxia sat on the dragon throne with a smile on his face. He took out Qing Yu and Ling Xiu's hair and cast a formation. After he still couldn't sense anything, he kept it properly. Qing Yu, Ling Xiu, don't be anxious. I will find you guys very soon. Very soon. He mumbled. Before long, the divine dragon's roar would ring out in the starry sky. At that time, the entire greater world would stop trembling. Wuxia could wait. The entire Dragon Palace was improving rapidly. The Heaven Lake continent above was celebrating. The entire continent was filled with joy and excitement. In order to thank the Dragon King for his achievements, the Tianzi continent had built a 10,000-meter-tall divine dragon that was emitting bright light at the position of the wall of protection. The image of the divine dragon was completely based on the image of the divine dragon that was entrenched on the ocean stabilizing needle in the Dragon Palace. Many of them had seen this image before. The 10,000-meter-tall divine dragon looked in the direction of the entire ocean, representing the Dragon King guarding the ocean, representing the achievements of the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King. Even the Federation changed the calendar, changing the first day of Liberation Day to the first year of the Dragon calendar. At this point, the new era of the Tianzi continent had begun. The Dragon Palace and Tianzi continent were filled with jubilation, while the Heavenly Beast Corporation headquarters was dead silent. The Sky Valley King Beast has been confirmed to have been killed. Confirmed to have been killed. Director Bei sat in a luxurious room in the headquarters and growled with a gloomy face. Around him, more than a dozen undying God King warriors sat around him. This time, almost all of the Heaven Beast Corporation's experts had gathered together. The Sky Valley King Beast was the strongest battle pet in the entire Heaven Beast Corporation. It was also the face of the entire Heaven Beast Corporation. Most of the time, the publicity was done with the Sky Valley King Beast. Now they were 100% sure that the Sky Valley King Beast had fallen. Not even a drop of blood essence could escape. The Sky Valley King Beast has been killed. 3 bosses have been killed. Are we just going to let it go like this? An old man slammed the table, roaring angrily. Who? In the leader's seat, the chairman of the Sky Beast Corporation closed his eyes, leaning back on the chair with a helpless expression. The other party has an undying God King level 3 existence. If you want revenge, don't even think about it. He said bitterly. Are we just going to let this go? The old man clenched his fists unwillingly. Let it go. The chairman said calmly. Even if they didn't let it go, what could they do? Fight till the end. The difference in strength wasn't huge. Killing 100 enemies would only result in 80 losses. They weren't willing to suffer such heavy losses. They could only forget about it. The rest of the people fell silent. No one said a word. So what if they were unwilling? Fight. They had to be prepared to bear the loss. It was obvious that the Heaven Beast Corporation did not want to bear the loss. Time passed very quickly. 2 months had passed. The advancement of all the members of the Dragon Palace had ended. Wang Xian was floating in the sky above the dragon field. He was looking ahead with a smile on his face. There were more than 150,000 members of the Dragon Palace. The weakest among them had already reached Immortal King level 3. To be able to achieve such a terrifying improvement, he had consumed the entire underground sea's resources. At the front of the group stood 35 figures. Each of them was emitting a terrifying aura. This was the combat strength of the Dragon Palace's God King level. There were a total of 35 of them, including Wang Xian himself. There was a total of 36 of them. Among them, Wuxia and the other 7 devouring dragons were the most powerful. Very good. The elevation of the Dragon Palace this time is the first step for the Dragon Palace to officially enter the Land of Brilliance. Next, we will make the name of the Dragon Palace resound throughout the greater world. The Tianzi continent is only the first step. Chapter 2426. 2426 Plan 2426. Dragon King, these are the resources that we have been searching for during this period of time, as well as some of the things that we have obtained. In the Dragon Palace, Prime Minister Gui handed some things to Wang Xian. During these 2 months, apart from improving the strength of the members of the Dragon Palace, Prime Minister Gui had also sent people to investigate the outside world. This outside world was the area around the Tianzi continent. The Tianzi continent was only one of the hundreds of billions of planets in this bright land. Although it was not weak in this greater world, it was definitely not strong. Now Wang Xian did not know much about the outside world. Other than knowing about the Star Source planet and Star Beast planet, he did not know much about the other planets. There was a teleportation formation at the Xiantian Academy in the Tianzi continent. Through the teleportation formation, one could reach other planets. There one could receive some missions, but Wang Xian did not receive any missions there. This is the artificial intelligence? Wang Xian looked at the item that Prime Minister Gui handed over and asked with some doubt. Yes, Dragon King. However, this artificial intelligence is slightly different from the artificial intelligence in the Tianzi continent. This artificial intelligence is connected to the entire Imperial Star Field. There is an overlord-level existence in the Imperial Star Field called the Imperial Court. It is ranked at the top among the 7 major fields. This artificial intelligence was promoted by the Imperial Court and covers the entire Imperial Star Field. The AI is connected to billions of planets. Countless people use this AI. Missions in the Xiantian domain are all tasks assigned by this AI. Prime Minister Gui gave a brief introduction to Wang Xian. Wang Xian took it over and took a look. The Tianzi continent was located within the Imperial Star Field of the 7 major domains. The entire Imperial Star Field was incomparably vast. There were tens of billions of planets. This only included planets with life, and there were countless planets without life. The artificial intelligence was promoted by the overlord of the Imperial Star Field, the Imperial Court. It was not something that the artificial intelligence like the Tianzi continent could compare to. There were very few artificial intelligence like this in the Tianzi continent. This was because the underground sea within the Tianzi continent had yet to be completed. Hence, they were not qualified to enter other galaxies. This artificial intelligence was a collection of all the mission areas, trading areas, communication areas, and entertainment areas in the entire region. Through the AI, Wang Xian could gain a lot of understanding of the entire Imperial Star Field. Wang Xian opened the AI and divided it into 4 areas. Each area was divided into other small areas. The mission area had a mission area to announce the mission, and a mission area to receive the mission. There were also different levels of missions, team missions, individual missions, and so on. There were all sorts of things. Wang Xian took a quick look, and even saw a reward mission at the top of the mission area. A reward for a peak-level Immortal King-level powerhouse. At the same time, this peak-level Immortal King-level powerhouse was also a wanted criminal in the Imperial Star Field. The difficulty of this mission could be imagined. It could even be said to be impossible to complete. The trading area also sold all sorts of items. It was similar to online shopping. There was only one thing that one could not imagine, and there was nothing that one could not buy. Wang Xian searched the trading area and found that even the immortal King Desolate Beast could be bought. Of course, such level of war pets required certain conditions to be bought. Furthermore, there were very few of them. One could count them on one hand. The trading area was an information area. There were discussion forums in each area. One could even buy information here. As for the entertainment area, it was even richer. There were singers, actors, and celebrities in the Imperial Star Field. Entertainment was essential no matter what era or background it was in. Wang Xian even saw live streamers on it. There were movie zones, novel zones, game zones, and so on. The entertainment methods were very rich. The content on it was on a completely different level compared to the Tianzi continent. The content was too rich. One person would probably read less than 1% of it, even after 100 years. Prime Minister Gui, how do you think the Dragon Palace will develop in the future? The more complicated the environment was, the more difficult it would be for the Dragon Palace to develop. The major forces here had divided the industries into different sectors. If they wanted to snatch food from the tiger's mouth, they needed to have the capability. Dragon King, I think that the Fire Hammer clan can forge weapons and sell them. The Phoenix Dragon Queen can lead the Fire Phoenix Dragon Seed to manufacture pills and sell them. In addition, war pets are extremely rare in the entire Imperial Star Field. It's easier to earn resources than weapons and elixirs. However, precious items usually need to be opened on a planet and have their own name. Otherwise, other people wouldn't be able to buy them without seeing the real thing. Prime Minister Gui suggested to Wang Xian, the higher the level of a civilization, the more perfect the system would be. In this resplendent starry sky, it was impossible for there to be no rules and order. On the contrary, the rules here were very perfect. If you want to sell things, you should at least have a shop. The more powerful ones should have their own businesses and industries. Only then would others be able to trust you. If the Dragon Palace wanted to develop for a long time, they had to get involved in these things. Otherwise, they would have to rely on war to make a fortune. However, who could guarantee a 100% victory in a war? Other than selling weapons and pills, the rest of the members of the Dragon Palace can do missions. There are many missions in the Imperial Star Field. If one godly monarch completes 1 or 2 missions, the resources obtained would be enough for our Dragon Palace to increase the combat strength of an undying godly monarch. Prime Minister Gui continued to add. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head. Completing missions was indeed a way to increase one's strength rapidly. The price to hire an immortal godly monarch was extremely high. What I need to do now is to open a Dragon Palace pet shop as soon as possible and sell the 10 immortal godly monarch pets I have. Once I sell these pets, my strength will be able to increase by 1 level. Wang Xian thought to himself. After he sold all the war pets, he could lead the members of the Dragon Palace to complete missions and accumulate strength. First, we need to set up some long-distance teleportation formations that lead to a prosperous planet and use this planet as a transit point. Also, Prime Minister Gui, look for planets like the Star Beast planet. It would be best if they are of a lower level. We can let he lead his men to conquer them. The planets that we occupy can build a Dragon Palace in the ocean. It can also increase the strength of the Dragon Palace and allow the Dragon Palace to develop rapidly. Wang Xian thought for more than 10 minutes before giving Prime Minister Gui an order. Firstly, they had to establish a connection between the Dragon Palace and the outside world. Secondly, it would be best if they could occupy a few more vital planets to build a branch of the Dragon Palace. It would be a cunning rabbit with 3 burrows. It would also allow the Dragon Palace to be fully prepared. Furthermore, if there were planets like the Star Beast planet, Crab could bring all his subordinates over and directly attack a desolate beast planet. The resources he would obtain would definitely be more than the resources he would obtain from doing missions. These 2 were the most important problems. As for the issue of selling his war pets, Wang Xian would solve it himself. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui immediately nodded his head. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, a communication stone plate in Wang Xian's interspatial ring trembled. He took it out and took a look. He realized that it was a message from Invincible in battle techniques. He sent dozens of messages in one go. He didn't know if it was an emergency, or if he was bored from holding it in. Chapter 2427. 2427, 2427 for sale. FUCK, Boss Wang, you are too awesome. You have reached the immortal godly king level. Oh my god, Boss Wang, please accept my knees. I heard from my father and ancestor that you led your men to calm the underground sea and killed everyone. You are invincible in the world. You are too awesome. Boss Wang, I just came out of seclusion when I heard the news from the Tianzi continent. I heard how awesome your dragon palace is. Please accept my bow. Boss Wang, you didn't forget about me, did you? As soon as he opened the message, Wang Xian saw the messages sent by Invincible battle technique. When he saw the contents of more than 20 messages, his face turned black. All the messages were of the same type. Clearly, he had just received messages about Wang Xian and the Tianzi continent. You came out of seclusion? Wang Xian asked when he saw how active this fellow was. Wow, Boss Wang actually replied to my message. I'm so excited. He replied in a second. Wang Xian. Buzz buzz. Following that, the communication stone in Wang Xian's hand trembled. He immediately opened it. Boss Wang, you're simply too handsome. Oh my god, I really didn't expect you to be so powerful. I knew it. My invincible boss with invincible battle techniques. The image of Invincible in battle appeared in front of Wang Xian. He kept spouting out excited words. Wang Xian turned his head to look at the AI beside him, and ignored him. Boss Wang, I have come out of seclusion. I am going to the Dragon Palace to visit you. Finally, Invincible in battle said to Wang Xian. No need. I have been busy recently. Wang Xian said to him indifferently. Busy? What are you busy with, Boss Wang? Is there anything I can help you with? Invincible battle technique asked eagerly. I need the Immortal King battle pet. Oh right, you can ask Overlord if you want it. If you want it, sell it at a good price. Wang Xian suddenly said. Overlord was not weak. If they wanted to buy an Immortal King battle pet, they could afford it. Immortal King level war pet. Invincible battle technique was moved. Even though he knew that Wang Xian was extremely powerful, he was still shocked when he heard that he was selling an Immortal King level war pet. Let me ask Boss Wang. He might buy it. Invincible battle technique said immediately. All right, let me know if there's any news. Wang Xian nodded and hung up the call. Sai, today is different from the past. Back then when Boss Wang sent me a message, I didn't reply. Now, no, I want to cling on to Boss Wang's thigh. At the position of Star Origin Planet Overlord Sect, Invincible battle technique muttered bitterly when he saw that the call was cut off. However, his face was soon filled with fighting spirit. Master, master. His body moved and immediately flew towards a mountain peak as he shouted loudly. Brat, don't make a fuss. If you have something to say it quickly. On the mountain peak, Overlord Sect Master Morong Kue looked at his disciple with a smile on his face. He felt that he was already very satisfied to be able to take in such a monstrous disciple in his lifetime. After the bloodline awakening, he had only been in seclusion for 2 months and reached Eternal God Lord level 5. Looking at the entire resplendent world, his age and strength were already considered top tier. He could totally be compared to the geniuses from the large sects. Master, do you want to buy the Undying God King battle pet? Invincible flew over and looked at his master, smiling as he said, Undying God King battle pet? Why kid, you want to show off your battle pet again? Morong Kue glanced at Invincible and stared at him as he said. This guy had been arrogant ever since he got an Undying God King cub. No, if you buy it, I can get it for you. Invincible immediately shook his head. Kid, do you really think you're the chosen one, getting used to your own strength? Moronkwe patted his head and lectured him. Master, you are looking down on me. I was Boss Wang's best friend back then. You can even give me a young undying God King. If Overlord doesn't want to buy it, then forget it. Invincible said with a black face and lowered his head. You mean the Dragon King Immortal? He wants to sell the Undying God King Battle Pet. Moronkwe was stunned for a moment. He retracted his smile and asked seriously. The other powers on the other planets might not know about what happened in the Tianze continent, but the Heavenly Technique sect and FA clan still received the news immediately. They were shocked at the Dragon King and the Dragon Palace. With the Dragon Palace's strength, the Heavenly Technique sect was not even comparable. Of course I'll sell it. It's a pity that I'm too weak. Otherwise Boss Wang would have given me a mature Undying God King battle pet. Invincible Battle Technique pretended to shake his head regretfully. Moronkwe stared at him, not sure if this kid was bragging. A true Zongshire level beast tamer. Tell the Dragon King that our Overlord sect cannot afford to buy an Undying God King battle pet if there are too many of them. If you have a good relationship with him, see if you can give one to your teacher. Moronkwe said to him. Cough cough, Boss Wang will agree to give it to me, but if I give it to you, I might not be able to. Invincible Fighter quickly said. Moronkwe waved at him, telling him to get lost. Dragon King not simple. Watching Invincible Battle Technique leave, Moronkwe muttered. Overlord really wants an Undying God King battle pet? In the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised when he received the news of Invincible Battle Technique. He only needed to devour about 15 level 1 Undying God King sea monsters, or these resources to level up. Selling one battle pet was enough. However, to level up again, he needed about 15 level 2 Immortal King level corpses. It was obviously not enough to sell the remaining 9 war pets to obtain resources. He was still short of more than half. Let me level up first. I'll make a trip to the Star Source planet. The Star Source planet is not too far from the nearest commercial planet. Wang Xian thought to himself. Commercial planets were relatively prosperous planets. There was no threat of dire beasts there, and it was extremely prosperous. Wang Xian was preparing to open the first Dragon Palace pet shop on that commercial planet. Prime Minister Gui, I'll leave the Dragon Palace's matters to you. I'm going out for a while. Wang Xian spoke to Prime Minister Gui, and immediately flew toward the center of the Federation. Greetings, Dragon King. When they arrived at the teleportation formation, the Federation soldiers immediately bowed respectfully. Bring me to the teleportation formation that leads to the Star Origin planet. Wang Xian said to them immediately. It's the Dragon King. A soldier immediately brought Wang Xian to the front. With Wang Xian's current status in the Tianze continent, everyone would obey him unconditionally. Buzz. When they arrived at the formation, Wang Xian stepped into it and activated the long-distance teleportation. Chapter 2428 2428 2428 Crocodile Slayer Godly King. When Boss Wang arrives later, all of you should be more respectful. You should know that he is my invincible boss in terms of combat techniques. And you, Yan, when you smile sweeter later, maybe Boss Wang will take a fancy to you, and you will have a meteoric rise. It's Marshal Granduncle. At the long-distance teleportation formation on the Star Origin planet, Wang Xian heard the voice of Invincible, in terms of combat techniques, as soon as he came out. Coming, hurry up. Welcome Dragon King to Overlord Sect. At this moment, Wang Xian saw a row of beautiful ladies standing there, and greeted Wang Xian respectfully. The girls' faces were filled with bitterness. They were called over by Invincible Battle Technique. They didn't dare to disobey, when Invincible Battle Technique called them over. The personal disciple of the sect master, the last disciple, and he also had an immortal godly king battle pet. His seniority and status were frighteningly high. Currently, Invincible Battle Technique was like the little overlord of the entire Overlord sect. Not to mention the immortal king, this was his master. Even the descendants of their sect master had to greet this young master respectfully. Today, he could be said to have called all the beautiful ladies of the Overlord sect over. Welcome, boss. Invincible battle technique immediately walked over with open arms and enthusiasm. Alright, you're doing well. Wang Xian looked at him and said with a smile. Hee, not bad, not bad. How's it going, boss? How's the lineup? Whichever one I like, I'll let her sleep with me tonight. Invincible battle technique raised his head and pointed at 2 rows of nearly 20 female disciples of the Overlord sect. All the female disciples' faces turned black when they heard her words. They stared at him with flames in their eyes. Let's go and meet your master. Wang Xian patted his shoulder heavily and said with a smile. Let's go, ladies, carry the palanquin. Invincible battle technique shouted softly and pointed at the palanquin in front of them. The group of ladies didn't dare to resist under his intimidation. They could only walk over silently. Bang! Alright, don't waste time. Wang Xian wanted to beat him up a little, so he said it directly. Hee, boss Wang, am I not doing my duty as a host? Invincible battle technique smiled and brought Wang Xian forward immediately. Huh, you actually broke through to the 5th level of the Eternal Lord? At this moment, Wang Xian noticed Invincible battle technique's cultivation level and said with some surprise. Boss, you are already so powerful. As your little brother, I naturally have to work hard and barely raise a few levels. Invincible battle technique said with a cheeky smile. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and sized up his body. Your bloodline is pretty strong. He stared at Invincible battle technique in astonishment. In his body, Wang Xian could feel a strong bloodline power. This bloodline power was sufficient for Invincible battle technique to reach a very high level. Boss Wang, you can tell? He keep a low profile. Invincible battle techniques raised his head and said loudly. He didn't look like he was keeping a low profile at all. Wang Xian didn't pay attention to him. He followed behind him and soon arrived at a mountain peak. Dragon King, sorry for not welcoming you. Please come in. On the mountain peak, Morong Kuei stood there to welcome him. There were a few elders around him who were sizing up Wang Xian curiously. Sect leader Morong, sorry for disturbing you. Wang Xian cupped his hands and replied politely. Haha, it's not easy to buy an immortal king war pet in this greater world. It's our good luck to meet the Dragon King. Morong Kuei smiled and gestured. Wang Xian nodded and followed him in. The rest of the battle pets are sold at this price too. Wang Xian said. With this price, there will be a rush. Morong Kuei sighed slightly. I want one. You can choose one. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. The following transaction was much easier. Overlord sect gave Wang Xian the resources for this war pet. Following that, Wang Xian spent another 5 hours to help tame it. The time needed to tame the immortal God King war pet was a little long. After taming it, Wang Xian got his invincible battle technique to prepare a room for himself. When he entered the room, he immediately devoured all the resources. Name, Wang Xian. Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, Mandragon Unity. Level, Eternal God Lord Level 6, Divine Dragon Transformation Level 6. Origin, 4-344/50000. Supernatural Ability, Ruling the Water Tribe below one's level. Devour living things to extract origin. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, Divine Dragon Transformation. Supernatural Ability, Soul Absorbing, Spirit Attaching, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Dragon Eyes. Aspect, 5 Elements Great Mill, Dragon Kingdom in the Palm, Dragon Head under the Heavens, Dragon Body of 10,000 miles, Yin-Yang Poles, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Alms Bowl, Divine Dragon Tail Swing. Law, Metal Wood Water Fire Earth Light and Darkness Level 6. Divine Kingdom, Dragon Palace. Dragon Palace, Level 7. Dragon Palace Member, 167,693. Half an hour later, Wang Xian slowly walked out of the room. Feeling the vast power in his body, a smile appeared on his face. With his current combat strength that was comparable to an immortal king level 2, he could easily crush Earth in the past. I'll go and ask Invincible Battle Technique if I can reach Dongqi planet directly from here. Wang Xian stretched his body and walked out with a smile on his face. Invincible Battle Technique. Scum, I'm here. Very soon, Invincible Battle Technique's figure ran over. Does the star source planet have a teleportation formation that can teleport us directly to Dongqi planet? Wang Xian asked him. Dongqi planet was the nearest commercial planet. Boss Wang, you're going to Dongqi planet too. Upon hearing his words, Invincible Battle Technique revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Huh, you're going? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked at him. My master is going to buy me some pills to stabilize my realm and prepare to go to Dongqi planet. TSK, Boss Wang. Not long ago, I obtained an artificial intelligence computer from the Imperial Starfield. You don't know that there are simply too many beauties in it. Those celebrities are just like fairies. Also, I heard that the fairies will be holding a concert on East Lake planet. I will definitely be there to take a look. Invincible Battle Technique said to him excitedly. His words made Wang Xian's face full of greetings. Is there a teleportation formation on the star source planet? Wang Xian asked again. There is a teleportation formation. We can go there directly. Boss Wang, if you want to go, I won't let my master go. When the time comes, we can play there for 2 days together. Invincible Battle Technique said with some excitement. Whatever. It's good that you have a teleportation formation. If it's possible, we can set off immediately. Wang Xian said directly. Wait, I'll let my master know. Chapter 2429. 2429 2429 Crocodile Slayer Godly King. Let's go, Boss Wang. Master has agreed. We can have a good time this time. Not long after, Invincible Battle Technique rushed over excitedly and said to Wang Xian. Okay, lead the way. Wang Xian gestured to him. Okay. Invincible Battle Technique nodded and brought Wang Xian to a teleportation formation of Overlord Sect. The teleportation formation leading to planet Dongqi is not in the Overlord Sect, but it's not too far away either. Invincible Battle Technique introduced the formation to Wang Xian. Following that, he took out an artificial intelligence with an excited expression. Come, Boss Wang, let me show you something good. As he spoke, he handed the artificial intelligence to Wang Xian. I have one. Wang Xian took a look and said indifferently. So you have one too, Boss Wang. The content in the entertainment zone is so interesting. As Invincible Battle Technique spoke, he began to fiddle with it while flying. This was because the star source planet had the potential threat of the star beast planet, so they did not promote this AI. There were many contents on this AI that might cause a commotion among some people. It was also not conducive to the development of the Overlord Sect and the Heavenly Dharma Sect. For example, there was news of a certain sect recruiting disciples on the AI, and some Heaven's chosen disciples might not be able to resist the temptation to join other sects. In order to prevent such things, Star Source Planet banned this AI. However, this AI was very convenient, and one could see all sorts of useful information on it. For example, Tianze Continent and Star Source Planet were located in a small corner in the north of the Imperial Starfield, and Tianze Continent already belonged to the border of the Imperial Starfield. On one side, there was the famous Diyun battlefield. Behind it was the endless desolate starry sky. The Dongqi planet was a relatively large commercial planet in a small corner in the north. At the same time, it was also one of the more than 1,000 commercial planets in the Imperial Starfield. This commercial planet was controlled by a third-rate force. Boss, the teleportation formation is in front. Half an hour later, Invincible Battle Technique looked around and said to Wang Xian. Okay. Wang Xian looked ahead and landed on a square. The square was huge, and there weren't many people on it. A few thousand disciples from the Overlord Sect and the Heaven Dharma Sect were guarding there. As it was a long-distance teleportation point, there weren't many people using the formation. Young Master Invincible. Seeing Invincible battle technique's arrival, the people from the Overlord sect immediately greeted him respectfully. Yes, Invincible battle technique smiled and nodded his head. Nowadays, everyone in the Overlord sect knew that he was Invincible battle technique. Junior sister Lungyu, are you guys going to Dongqi planet? Yes, we are going to buy some things. At this moment, a voice came from the side. Invincible battle technique turned his head and immediately narrowed his eyes. Beauty Lungyu, you guys are also going to Dongqi planet. That's too much of a coincidence. We are fated. Upon seeing Lungyu, Invincible of battle tactics immediately ran over with a smile. Wang Xian shook his head when he saw her like this. This guy was shocked when he met Lungyu in the Tianzi continent. It seemed like this guy had a heart. Young Master Invincible, what are you guys doing? Lungyu was obviously stunned when she saw Invincible of battle tactics. She looked at Wang Xian and asked curiously. Boss Wang and I are going to Dongqi planet. Let's go together. Invincible battle technique said with a chuckle. Sure. Lungyu nodded at him.